what we're going to be going over tonight is, for anyone just joining us, is going to be the Dallas vs. Seoul game. I took some notes. We're going to go over this really quick. I should say really quick. It's probably going to take 2 or 3 hours. I'm going to try to skip more of the just dive on dive sections that I'm not really interested in about, and if it seems well, then in the future, we're just going to cut those sections out, and I'll just go over the interesting stuff. So, if we can, if I get some feedback on that later tonight. So the first one we're going to be looking at is Junkertown, obviously. And the big thing about Junkertown that we're actually seeing a lot of Hanzo played. And a lot of Widow. Basically, we're seeing a lot of snipers. Hog is coming up more and more and more. So the snipers are obviously because Junkertown has so much space. Also noticed right here that for Hanzo, there's a lot of climbing space, right? Left and right sides. It's tough to keep track of Hanzo on this stuff, and then the snipers have very good sight lines. And with Scattershot, if he gets a pick, you can pretty much take the point. That's the same thing with the Widow. Also, just on this composition, we see 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks. So actually the defense is 4 tanks, 2 supports. And if anyone's watched me long enough, they know that I believe that tank's biggest weakness is range. Now, the one thing that tanks do have against range is shields, but we can see right here they are not using any of the shield tanks, basically Reinhardt or Orisa. They do have some Winston stuff, you know, they have defensive matrix, but overall they're pretty much out in the open. And now, most teams are going to defend this spot. I don't think the composition really matters much, but a lot of people will defend this forward spot, and that's because, again, in Overwatch, the farther you fall back, the more flanks that you have open. So if we look at this map, if you were to defend here, or here, you know, basically on this ridge, they have this path, and anyone with mobility can jump over on the bottom flank as well. So you are opening yourself up to a lot of damage. Like you can't keep track of the Widow here, and also have shields here and here at the same time. It's very difficult. Widow is probably going to get a pick. Yeah. So, we did briefly said that they have 4 tanks. They're low on range. So, especially with both snipers, we're expecting to see some long sight lines abused. And then, if they do get jumped on, we do see this nifty Bastion. The Hog, Orisa, Bastion, I mean, all these guys work together, and even from the first pick, we'll see. That combo, extremely successful. They try to do the same over here, but nothing gets out. And now with this, they're down a man, and essentially you don't want to be fighting a 5v6, so they're backing up. And this is really important, especially on this shot. Remember, tanks have low range. All these guys, pretty low range. Even with the Lucio, they still got low range. So the first defense point didn't work. So where's the second one? They're going to defend at this point, which means the entire team has to come into these choke points. And this is all close range stuff. They can either approach primarily through the main path, but they do have the staircase right here. And if they wanted to be sneaky, which they don't in this case, you have multiple methods to attacking this to essentially shorten up the distance immediately for your tanks to be in their strongest range. Essentially, if a Hanzo or Widow push up to this point, it's going to be a lot easier to kill them. So they're falling back, 1, because they lost 1, and 2 is the strongest area for them to defend at.
Who we know is a very good hit scan player. Obviously, we've seen him mostly on Soldier. The Bastion.
See him move forward.
And it'll be time, of course, on one of his special.
And we see Widow doing this very long flank. And if hidden, which she is, this should be a pretty significant blow if Effect hit his shots. The problem is, and you can see they jump on him in the closed-in area. They also flank 3 around this side. Hanzo, Bastion, and I believe it's the Mercy on this side. Yep, there's the Mercy. Now the Widow should be getting a lot of damage done here, but he hits 3 targets 1 time each. And I don't know if anyone noticed this, but essentially Lucio solos the Widow. You can actually see her health go down in 20 increments. Right there. There's a headshot, a couple more shots. Lucio essentially soloed the Widow here. At the same time, Ana going to get the sleep out on Bastion, because Bastion is not with the tank group. And the tanks are holding very well over here by themselves, right? That's where they're strong. They're going to do well on this side. Bastion gets slept because it is tankless over here. And with that, the supports essentially kill the 2 DPS players. They're running 3 DPS, but 2 of the DPSers were killed by supports. And this is a very common theme for Seoul. Seoul has these incredibly, incredibly good supports, and they pull more weight than they really should. And they get a lot of, just a lot of use out of them. So here's Hanzo, and like I said, Hanzo's good on these up and downs, but guess what? He pushed up a little bit too far. This is what you want. You want these snipers, forced to push up, because the only place these snipers can get to you is, is this far side, right? If they try to peek over here, or if they peek here, and then where Hanzo's at currently. Which is, if you're on this ground, this is medium range. This is perfect for tanks. Essentially, the snipers are giving up their strongest range for a weaker medium range, and the tanks are giving up their strongest range with a short range for a little bit weaker medium range, but you're willing to make that sacrifice so you can actually fight the snipers. And here we actually see one of Seoul's biggest issues. And this actually comes to haunt them a bit throughout the entire series. Nope, wasn't that. So, with the Hanzo pick, they also get the Widow pick. Winston gets a little bit too greedy and gets hooked. And now he's super far back. He is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly far back. He's going to die. But the Zarya tries to save him. What happens? There's the Bastion. And so everyone was funneled through this choke point. And this attachment, this kind of... I don't want to call it greed, but they're looking to press an advantage, and they go through a choke point to get it. So, for those that don't know, when we talk about terrain advantages or map advantages, disadvantages, in Overwatch, there's usually 2 big advantages. And the one is high ground, and the other ones are choke points. These are like the big 2 things in Overwatch that really set maps apart and when teams are strong and when our team's weak. Now, on defense, essentially, attackers are forced to attack. So as an attacker, you're forced to go through this choke point, which is a disadvantage, right? Disadvantage. Because Seoul goes through it themselves, they are then subjected to what they should be subjecting the enemy to. In fact, that's exactly what happens. This is essentially a turns attack versus defense backwards. Seoul are now attacking. Dallas is now defending. So what happens? Everyone pushes through, and they get caught. And this essentially leads to some picks, and these picks lead to more picks, and essentially it's just a snowball at that point. Now there's one other thing I want to talk about. I went way too far. So whenever you follow a single point, and this is actually very, very important, even if you're chasing a single person, you have a habit of essentially forming a choke point. And I know in this map, there is this big building here, and then this big building right here. And you're like, oh, well, of course they're going to be turned into a choke point because they're just going through a choke point. But I set up a little thing, and I hope people get it. But I got a whiteboard here. I'm going to bust out this motherfucking whiteboard. Ah! Bam! I'm going to put the laptop back. I just want you guys to look at this very quickly, and the reason I'm doing this so awkwardly is for a specific reason. So that's an eraser. Don't worry about that. But, so on this map, we have two big buildings, and everyone's going through them to get the other guy over here, right? They're subjecting themselves to the choke point. And by going through this, they're just grouping up, and that's really bad. But the truth is, even if you take these buildings out, and this is actually something that I've seen done wrong in like Team Deathmatch for Quake, Dota, I don't know about League of Legends, but it happens in League of Legends too, I bet. Millions of dollars are won and lost based on this one simple thing. I gotta prop up my knee so I get this. Check this out. Check out my nuts! These are my nuts. And so I attach strings to all of them. And let's say you're all going for a target, right? This is your target. Even if you're all spread up, if you keep chasing this target, naturally, everything comes together. People don't realize this. It's just how shit works. If you're all chasing a single point, and no matter how it is, you will eventually subject yourself to a choke point naturally. There doesn't even have to be a choke point in the game. You will group up naturally because you're chasing this one target. This happens in Dota a lot, and it's because people don't stay in formation. I can't explain it with like how it's supposed to be done with physics, but essentially, if this guy keeps going straight instead of going towards the target, this guy keeps going, these two could go towards the target. These guys got to go around or something. They cannot subject themselves to the same issue where they all go towards them. This is kind of what happens a lot, and the maps don't help. We'll see Seoul actually chase a lot of people through choke points, and first of all, just following people is going to subject yourself to this phenomenon, which is grouping up and forcing your guys into you're essentially making a choke point where no choke point exists, but if a choke point does exist in the map, you're screwing yourself even more. Also, check out my sweet pepper pants. These are the ones that my grandma got me. Bam! So hopefully that helped people. It's actually incredibly important. Most, I would say everyone, they never talk about that. And it actually loses a lot of games. Yeah, I got pepper pants. These are the pants I wore when I was running downstairs and I scared the hell out of my mom and I toppled over this porcelain tree and I had to dive and make a catch. So here we go. We see him just rolling them at this point. Because they chased so far and the Bastion got a couple kills, this is just essentially snowballed into this point. And now we see with... here it is. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong team. Reaper. It's kind of expected to see a Reaper come out when you're running 4 tanks. Right, tanks love close range. Guess who also likes close range? Reaper. This is a little bit of misplay by Harry Hook. He should have heard her footsteps. But he doesn't. He actually takes a lot of damage and misses about a second or two of firing on her. At close range, too. But this is pretty classic. Put your tanks on the cart. Put your DPS around the cart. And then shoot on the cart. And it usually works. Because they're forced on point. The enemy's forced on point. You're just going to get kills that way. And now they're going to start pushing up. By the way, Scattershot always worked like this. I would actually like the skill. You see how nothing actually hits behind it? It just kind of goes this way and that way. I would like that. So as Dallas is trying to push up, because no space is good space, right? You want to subject the enemy team, and we'll see when we get to the Orisa up here. So you want to subject the enemy team to the choke points, right? You want to push up and make them go through these, there's 1, 2, 3, and then 4 choke points the team has to come through. You want to punish them for going through these choke points, and that's what they try to do. But there's a little bit too few of them because the payload's so far back. There's probably like 3 or 4 people, I think, up here. They can't get a lot done. Actually, only 2. As they retreat, Zarya ults, and this is perfect. This is the cleanup. This is going to buy all the space they need to retake the point. Yeah, so it was good catching everyone at once, especially the team that pushed forward, essentially the Orisa Bastion. Because the Orisa Bastion is actually a really big part of the strategy, and taking them out really neuters the entire team. And now we see a strange maneuver, and I'm thinking, why would you ult this far back? Why would you ult in this position?
My genius is finally recognized.
This is essentially to secure the linear distance. So I don't think we're going to get a good view on it. Okay, here we go. This is good enough. Essentially everything you can see from here, that's kind of what the area is securing. Also, if they were able to push up this far, I forget the exact meter that Orisa's ult reaches, but it's fairly far. Essentially, this allows them to take this high ground in this first corner, which gives them just a hell of a lot better chance to take whatever is back here. You always run the risk of flanks up here, but I wouldn't worry about that if you got damage boost. They shouldn't see so much coming. Problem is instead of backing away, the Zarya actually takes it out. The Winston jumps on it. The Zarya takes out the bongos, and then they're forced to push forward. Also, we see a Pharah dive straight in, and Ryuhong is on Ana, and he 3-shots her pretty quickly. So, with that gone, Hog's gone, and now an ult over the top. Push has been pretty much neutralized. Pharah kind of went a little bit too far ahead before the team got there. And now here's that same thing. Here's Seoul pushing out to get a kill. And that little move right here, this little move by Reaper where he just sits back and they're forced to come around this bend is very, very critical, because now look how much farther they have to commit. They have to commit up to this point. And while that doesn't seem like a big deal, they do have a Bastion on there. So again, they pushed out too far looking for a single kill when they could have just waited. And they lose one in the process. Mercy reses it. They're at full power. There's no way Mercy's going to be able to res the other one, or the D.Va that just died. So essentially 5v6 because of their own greed. What's even worse is that we should notice this about Hog. Hog, we can barely see it. We see his outline. We can now see a Junkrat get pulled right to him. And Hog is going to get the kill. Now, we're going to see Tiamu, or whatever, however you pronounce his name. Taimu? Taimu, we're going to see him do this a lot. He's going to favor the high ground, and it's actually more or less going to win him the game eventually. But with one pick, the D.Va's been picked, Junkrat's been picked. At this point, I don't even consider, I wouldn't even consider what happened here meaningful. If Seoul defends, I would consider it meaningful, but if Dallas win this fight, I don't consider it meaningful at all. It's a 4v6. They're in a lot of pain. There's nothing they can do about it. And they just get beat. Right? That's what happens when you're down 2 guys to 6. And now, here comes that defense switch. So now, while Dallas is supposed to be attacking, right here's that little symbol attacking, and here's Seoul saying defending, because they are subjected to the choke points, and they have the other advantage of defense, which is formation. We briefly talked about formation where we're like, hey, look at these 4 guys. If they attack this one, they actually break formation. They subject themselves to a choke point, and they're going to die. So, formation... No, I was going to stay there. Formation means I get to choose how I'm going to set up on this. So, bam. Bastion right here. He's like, I'm going to defend this point because this is the most difficult thing for them to deal with. Got a couple guys on cart, and most importantly is this Hog over here. You can't see him yet, but they got a Hog defending this high ground. They got Reaper on the low ground holding this, so if they come in immediately close range, it's actually pretty smart that they have the essentially the high ground that has 20-30 meters sight radius guarded by Hog. Right? That's good. That's his strong areas. Reaper is the one right around the corner. Perfect. Like 0 meters. That's perfect. And they have a Pharah. Here's the Pharah. The Pharah's up here, I believe. And Pharah owns these 2 choke points really, really well, right? They have no choice but to get hit by her. Like, you can't look up, you can't hurt her. You're going through a doorway, and then Pharah's already, hitting you from above. She can get the angle and get splash damage in there when you can't even see her. This is Pharah's the strongest way you can use her. This is incredibly difficult to go up against. And so now we can see the white outline of a soldier and a Junkrat. And now watch this. Supports the D.Va going low. Soldier going left high ground. Soldier doesn't die, but he does get his ass kicked by the hog. He got hooked. And now with the soldier busy, he's been late to the party. Now Miro, he's jumping on essentially nothing by himself. Why he died was because it took Seoul so long. One, they got stuffed on this choke. There's no support. If a soldier came up behind there and Miro jumped, then Bastion could have had a chance to die. You would have seen something. But they stuffed this choke point. Down here, they dealt with it with the Reaper, and it slowed them down just enough for D.Va not to be able to save their Winston. Also, the D.Va's pretty much worried about this Pharah because, again, Pharah right against this wall is incredibly dangerous. So while it seems like a mistiming on Miro, it's actually, it was because, and there's... So the soldier actually, once he got denied here, he healed up and went out this exit. And then Hog is holding the high ground. So we see Taimu doing this the entire time. He keeps holding the high ground against the other DPSers. And which is Hog's, strong suit. And at this point, again, numbers advantage, they're going to get the kills. But it wasn't that Miro went too early, it was that Dallas actually had a really good defense and essentially stalled all the other choke points, which forced Miro to be perceived as jumping early.
They went in too soon. Miro engaged a bit too early, and he was just...
So it was bad timing and coordination between Soul's team? No, it was good defense on Dallas's part. They forcefully slowed down 2 choke points, and I don't think they knew that's how it was going to work. But just by defending 2 of the choke points, people are going to go through there slower. And the 1 choke point they didn't defend, where they didn't think anyone was going to come out of, or the Pharah was going to defend, Miro just jumped out of. So it just changed how the entire thing rolled out just because they were defending that point. Here, we see D.Va really far ahead. It looks like the Reaper bought enough time. I know it doesn't look like much, but Soldier shot his Helix rocket. The Widow, everyone turned around for like 2 seconds. In those 2 seconds, they got from essentially where that stairway is at, coming downstairs, to the Payload, more or less. They got the Payload up this far. And then D.Va's alone here. Miro's also still dead. D.Va gets hooked. At this point, you're tankless, and you just have to give space up. You have to give up space. It's also nice, Bastion holding this hallway between the two so no one can flank on him. And it's crazy to see this, but that one kill on D.Va, it actually got him up to like 75% around this fidget spinner, right? Just that one kill. So pick's hella important. And with this we see Bastion, and this is where Bastion's really good. I almost treat him like a Widow. Essentially, you're trying to cut off angles. So Reaper's in here. So Bastion wants to move up, and essentially wants to get this angle. He doesn't want to be vulnerable to people on the point over here, or people coming out of spawn. He just wants to be able to see the people in this room, probably going through this little choke point, and getting some damage off on them, without exposing himself too much. So as Reaper gets found out and gets shot in the face, D.Va also dives. And then we're going to see the Mercy. And at this point, shit kind of goes bad for them. Because now they put everyone close range against the Reaper with Death Blossom. Because the fight was forced into this small room. Now Seoul did drop the 4 tank. They're just running 2 tank now. It's pretty much a dive comp with. It's not really divey. It's just a classic D.Va Winston. A couple long range damagers. But yeah, this close-in fight, man, is it dangerous. Right. Everyone on Dallas's team is really, really good short range. The hook and the push away. And at this point, it's all, it's taken. It was a snowball after that point. Just because once you get a couple kills, and the enemy can't, like, recover, and you get more kills and start snowballing, and essentially it just creates a stagger. So it was a cool strategy. Reaper wanting to be in closed-in areas. And then the tanks coming in there to support him. Once he died, everyone kind of really crushed that room. But then he got rezzed, and all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh shit, there's a Reaper here. He's invulnerable for 2 seconds. We know what's going to happen when he gets uninvulnerable. D.Va was out of the defensive matrix. They were kind of SOL.
And I'm just surprised to see more of Effect on the Widowmaker. Obviously, Effect is one of the very best players in the world, but that's been Taimu's role. But, of course, Taimu historically a great Roadhog as well.
He didn't look great on
And then we will see.
He looked much more comfortable on the Roadhog, so that's what we got him on now.
So we see the Widow again. Ruhong, he's going to be changing. Yeah, there he goes. He was the Ana. Anyways, good on straight lines. And then they got a little bit of close-up stuff. We see Dallas. They're running the hook halt stuff, but with some long rangeness, just because it's Junkertown .1. Really good. And Junkrat's just good all around. A lot of shield strats. I guess you always have to be worried about, you know, the pirate ship on this one. So the Bastion and the Hog are good vague picks to deal with if they're running a Bastion. Or something, you know, a little bit cheesier.
But Munchkin on the Reaper is interesting. This is a counter to the Roadhog they saw in the last round.
Good shots. So the Widow, as expected, is trying to... Very odd picture I stopped on. The Widow is trying to put pressure on flanks. Also, Junkrat was killed. Junkrat got killed. It's going to say... Hold on. So it just says Ryuhong. But he got fire striked as well. But it was a combination of the team. They pushed up a little bit too close. Because... we briefly talked about it. You want to defend this point first. If you ever fall back too far, you expose flanks. And you really, really want to try to limit how many flanks you have exposed. So that's why you see a lot of teams defending this far up. The problem is Ryan Reaper, once they got the Junkrat pick and the Widow pick there, it's just run in, we have the advantage short range, they can't take us all out. Even if they do, we have the spawn advantage. Just get in there. And so they do. And that's actually what topples that point. Can you explain the reason for Bastion without a shield tank in the beginning? If you're talking about the first push? They just came out of spawn shooting. If you're talking about when Dallas attacked.
With some of the best tank and support players in the world, and the room they can open up for Fleta to do his thing has revolutionized his play.
True enough.
So again, no space is good space, especially with a Reaper. So Reaper pushed up. He was kind of bullied out, but he's still on the low ground around corners.
Payload moving to the end of point A already. Dallas Fuel with a chance at a last.
We see the Widow far back as expected.
Effect under fire already.
It was a good choice. To put Mercy with the Widow. Because Effect does get a lot of picks on him, or a lot of shots, but he gets healed through it. And it essentially just buys enough time for the D.Va to just go up there and clobber her. Not sure what the hell the Zen was doing that far back. little bit over ulting, but whatever, that's fine.
With the Death Blossoms, they can continue pushing forward.
Janitor of Overwatch strikes again.
But overall, it was a good push. Essentially, Reaper Ryan went up close. Widow was staying long range. D.Va went on the Widow to negate the long range. You have superior long range at the time, an uncontested Widow. Even at that point, just the Reaper Ryan close range was incredibly strong. And they actually saved a lot of their good ults.
They might be able to give it to him. But without a Winston, without a soldier.
And I think, hold on, let me go back. And I think D.Va is abusing her being D.Va.
Janitor of Overwatch strikes again.
Just a couple of supports right
on the pick. Letta looking for a bit more.
Just a couple of
So yeah. Okay, never mind. I've been noticing a lot. Of course, Junkrat has a big issue with D.Va, and I've been seeing a lot of pro matches where the D.Va just flies in the Junkrat, defensive matrix, and rockets, and then starts shooting them afterwards. I forgot if it happened there or not. It didn't happen that time, but it does happen a lot. What are they crouch spamming walking forward? Could be habit from different games. It doesn't really change anything, actually.
Becomes trickier to figure out where exactly this ult should go.
Munchkin looking around the outside. Back to the middle there. Letta, still okay on the Widow. Hasn't found as many.
So we see the engagement. We do see some great moves. Right here. 2 shots it. And now the issue here is they have a hard time dislodging Junkrat from the high ground up here, and they're having a hard time dislodge everyone else from up here. So they just push underneath, and they try to brute force the low ground. Right? So Nano Boost on the Reaper, gets 1 tank kill, can't get much, they're still on the high ground. And then Munchkin, the Reaper, decides to stay this far in. It's debatable. As a Reaper, you need to stay in. But he dies so far behind enemy lines that the D.Va tries to save him, and it just gets these 2 people killed. Also, as they keep on fighting, even with these resurrections, there is something that everyone is missing. And that is, no one has contested the high ground. And this entire time, there's a Junkrat that no one's paying attention to. And that is one of the worst things you can not pay attention to in the game. In fact, we're going to see Seagull get his ult again, just from how much damage he's outputting. And remember, the fight started off with a Riptire that Ana destroyed. Yeah, you just can't leave the high ground uncontested, and let alone a DPS uncontested above you. Any DPS in the game is going to shred you if you ignore him for 5-10 seconds. And these Widows are so goddamn good. So picks going left and right. Taimu, he got the Widow hacks, and that's how we got that one. At this point, it's all stall.
I think I have to say, under most circumstances, I would definitely bring a sniper rifle to a hook fight.
Yeah, but then you're a road dog, and you can take those shots, and then you just turn on the corner.
So here we go. Let's see how they push in. Can't go that way. They keep getting blocked everywhere, and this time in essentially by them getting stuffed on one area buys them time. And the more time they spend trying to look for an area to go through, the more time you're getting Widow to get more information and to line up a shot. And that's exactly what happens. And there's another pick. There's another pick. At this point, just get the fuck out. Now we see them push out like we did Seoul, but or we see Dallas push out like Seoul did, but Seoul is unable to punish them. They have the Widow, but they don't have any long range. And if you saw that, the Orisa re-put down her shield there, and they kind of re-established the defense right here. which is a bit different than like 3 people running out and then getting, you know, popped in the head.
Yeah, they had all these different looks. They had all these different team compositions. And we saw Lunatic High primarily playing dive, but it was the adaptation in how they played dive that made the big difference. But so far, we haven't really been seeing a great adaptation from Seoul.
So they're trying to push from multiple angles. We just saw Widow hacks on both sides right now. Widow can't find much.
My genius is finally recognized.
And this is where we see, okay, so right there is when the Diva hunts down the Junkrat, and it's exactly as you feel it on the ladder. Essentially just dives them, defensive matrix, with the missiles, and then shoots over the top. And now we finally get essentially a good, or more or less a good dive. Winston jumps on top of everyone, nano boosted, and it breaks apart this very solid defense behind the shield. Reaper comes in, and the problem is that as Winston dove in, everyone retreated. In fact, they jumped off 3 different ways. They were all retreating, and then the Reaper came in, and that's kind of why that ult didn't get much. But as they're broken up, we start seeing each of the splinters getting picked up. Mercy tries to res, but they can't ult themselves out of this disadvantage. It gets close. But they have the numbers advantage. They're good. So getting rid of Junkrat was key in this case. Getting a numbers advantage is always key. Killing a DPS, you know, obviously makes your team last longer. But I think it was more about the Diva actually contested the high ground and got a very good pick beforehand. Before the fight even started, making it a 5v6. So, here we go, and as opposed to Dallas' attack, Seoul does not get a very good chance to set up, and they don't have the Bastion or something where they need to set up. So we see, you know, Reaper's close, Winston's close, Diva's on cart. We see their support's way in the back, and then here's the Widow. So they're kind of set up, but they allow them to get on point. A lot of fighting going on point. Junkrat goes for the Mercy, can't get the Mercy, comes back, gets 2, forces out the res gets both. And now, right here, we see the Diva get rezzed. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong team. This is actually before all of this. So there's... Where's the D-Mech on the Diva? Hold on. The D-Mech on the Diva is actually really important. Okay, so there it is. Zen D-Mech's the Diva. The mini Diva's over here fighting the Zen right there. Everyone kind of forgets about these two. So this fight's going on. They're all worried about these reses. Mini Diva kills Zen. Dallas is holding this really, really strong. It looks like Seoul doesn't have a chance, but guess what happens? That Diva went around, got her met back, came up, kills the Junkrat from behind. Also, what we don't see... Here's Toby. Look at Toby, flying around like a badass. Watch Effect's health. And it took me a while to figure this out. Here's Effect. You can see the Widow model. We can see Mercy, the telltale sign of a Mercy going up by 2%, which is how much she gets per shot. And the effect of Effect's health getting reduced at 20 HP at a time. It doesn't show up in chat, or it doesn't show up in the kill feed, but essentially, Toby solos the Widow. After the mini Diva soloed the Zen and came around to get the Junkrat. This is what actually breaks open the point. The Mercy gets away. This is what buys them the time to get the point. If the mini Diva and the Mercy didn't get enough, like those 2 kills, or 3 kills, I don't know if they would have gotten this point.
Price was so high, Doa. The use
Uh,
of Valkyrie, you only have
It
20 left.
the mini diva usually dies pretty quickly, especially against the Zen in close quarters.
To push through.
But yeah, they fucking hats off to who was on the mech? Zumba? Yeah, Zumba. So there's a good pick. So Widow against Widow. I don't know if anyone remembers Season 1. Maybe the beginning is mainly Season 1. Overwatch did a lot of Widow versus Widow, and it came down to whoever's Widow was better. And this was before the damage nerf to her. It's still slightly true. So the Widow dies, and for some reason the Diva jumps in, and she dies as well. Right now it's a 4v6, and this is really good. Winston was above, and he fell down, and he's putting pressure on this side. We will see the rest of the team put in pressure this side. Kills everyone. That's what happened. Small little pincer did God's work there.
And Mickey switching back to the Orisa. They need some sort of hard defense. It's going to be a while before.
Did rely too much on the Widow. The problem is every Widow is naturally relied on too much because she's either hit or miss. So he wins this duel. Really good shots. And now here we see the cause and effect of Junkrat. So we see these two trades. Okay, big whoop. But we're going to see Winston dives in, Zen gets tired, but now Reaper is going to be diving in, and the Diva is trying to protect him. You can see the Diva in here, right here. But now they're all getting joint healed from the Mercy that's ulting. But Mercy has to res the Zenyatta. This breaks the healing on Diva long enough for her to stay at half health this entire time. Essentially because they're down one support and the other support has to deal with the other one. You can see there's no healing going on for about 5 seconds. You see some healing here, but it's not enough to keep the Diva alive. The Diva gets picked, and then the Reaper gets picked. As the Winston dove in, get this, because the Diva's gone, the Reaper's gone, the Winston jumped in on a McCree, Junkrat, Zen, and he gets blown the fuck up. This point's won right now. They suffered too many losses, and it was actually because of that initial Junkrat pick on the Zen, which slowed the healing down for the Diva, which essentially made their entire push weak. They had no damage mitigation. They just had no damage mitigation on this point. So it was a cool exchange of events. I like how it seems a little bit dangerous, but it's actually, I think, better. So look how they're holding this area. It kind of removes this far flank, and it puts a lot of their weapons closer to the targets. And as Orisa gets her shield, she will walk up with it to right about here. It kind of limits their options because no one wants to flank around the far right side and take all that time to more or less not get much. As you're flanking across this entire time, because this entire force is so close to your team, they're going to kill your teammates before your flank ends. I think it's really good. They also get the health pack for easy health. And they block the cart. It's just, I like this way they defended. They didn't defend in all angles, they just kept to this side. And it keeps the guys back here extremely safe.
This time around, Reds comes in on Munchkin, so Soul not out just yet. Riptire does claim J-Home, though. That's going to be a problem for Soul.
Yeah, see how this shield, it doesn't look like much, but they moved it from here to here. And that gave them the health pack. So your choice is what? Do you jump on the back lines and get blown up, which is exactly what happens to Winston? Here's the Winston. He Discord, Junkrat, McCree, you're toast. Nothing can survive that. So, cool strategy. Cool idea of just holding this entire... And the other thing is if you hold this entire line... This is essentially the area they held. If a Widow wants to get a line on you, they have to expose themselves more and more and more. And so a Widow would have to either be up here, and a Widow back here, it's a tough shot. So at the same time, they're minimizing how much the Widow gets, how much area the Widow could see. Sorry. I also took out the Zen incoming turn Zens out of the fight. Technically, yes. So the Zen alts, yeah, it never came actually. There's the Zen res. I mean, maybe he could have got it. It's questionable. It's Ruhong, so let's see here, 97. Yeah, so I would say yes, because he's gonna get ult. He did get ult, but if he got ult 10 seconds quicker, which he probably would have if he was alive up there the whole time, yeah, it took Zen out of the fight completely. And someone asked, what are the broad strokes we can take away from this? The big one is Seoul got caught twice pushing up and getting punished for it. I know everyone wants to get that last kill right before the enemy pushes because you delay their push essentially by like 15 seconds or so. Because the respawn is going to take 8 seconds, and just to get into combat is going to be like another 5 or so. It's a really good way to stall, but remember that you're subjecting yourself to a choke point when you chase that far, with or without choke points being in the fucking game. That's the kicker. Even if it's in an open field and you guys chase someone poorly, you don't stay in formation, you will lose because you're essentially putting yourself into a metaphorical choke. And that people can take advantage of it. Now, sometimes people don't take advantage of it, but at the same time, is 15 seconds worth you losing a person that's going to lose you the point? The answer is no. It's a little bit too risky, and you kind of got to stay to your guns. Now, it is a little bit situational, but watch out for that. The other thing, Soul supports, it's going to come up time and time again. They did really good on defense this time. Soul supports are so fucking good. They do more than you would ever think. That's it. The other one was Hog holding the high ground. Because no one was holding the high ground with any teamwork against the Hog, essentially the DPSs were going up alone, and they thought they could just own the high ground by being on the high ground and being, a skilled DPS player. The truth is, though, tanks control space for a prolonged period of time, usually longer than the DPS can handle it. And Hog does that, again, through just sheer force of will. Just damage alone. Taimu, I want to say he was the key part on the attack for Dallas. He gets the kills, and he stops the DPSers pretty much on every single point, and I think he does crack the defense on every single push. He hooked the Winston first on the first point. He hooks the Junkrat on the second point. Then on the second point, the second one up, he hooks the Soldier twice and kills him. And then he hooks Diva, causing more and more stall. It was really good play by Taimu. So Fuel ran anti-dive. I don't want to call it anti-dive. They were just running a good comp. I don't even want to call it a good comp. They were just running what they felt comfortable with. And no one really... I would say there was no traditional dive there. We actually didn't see Tracers. We didn't see Genjis. Obviously, you're going to see Winston Diva every single match. I don't want to call that dive alone. So, I wouldn't say they ran an anti-dive comp. They ran a composition that was incredibly strong, once they got a pick, and Seoul was giving them that one pick, along with Taimu was just taking the one pick with Hook. Now on Anubis, we're going to start seeing a little bit more of the classic dive. So if anyone didn't catch that, we finally see Mei. She's finally used, but technically not during the game, only during setup phase. Oh no, I guess she does run. She ran to do stall. So Lucio. They run Lucio Mei just to get her to and from the point faster, and then they switch over to Mercy Tracer, and Mercy essentially moves as fast as Tracer because of her dash. But we see this on top of the platform defense. So one key factor is this, to stop any Orisa from pulling you off the top of the ledge. Also, it's just good to mitigate long-range fire if they ever, if they're running a Pharah for whatever reason. I know the Widow can deal with her, but this long-range damage can be mitigated by D.Va. Also, they're running a Widow. That's why they actually have strength this far back. The one bad thing is, and you may have noticed this, see Orisa? Widow, D.Va. Well, yeah, Mercy can get up there, but what about Zen? What about Zen? Well, we're gonna find out real quick what happened to Zen. Zen looked like he was trying to jump up there on the box.
We saw this earlier, but it was
so what this tells you already, Zen's on the low ground somewhere by himself. And that is a critical flaw of the plan. Tracer can handle her own, she can handle herself. And now we actually see the comps come out. So we see Widow again against Widow. As Widows get better and better, she'll be ran more and more and more. There's just little to do. You can stop someone shooting you in the face and taking you out of the game instantly. With Widow with Mercy getting nerfed, Widow picks become so much more valuable. So much more valuable. So if we see a bit of Widow, we may see more Reinhardt just because people are going to need a constant shield. Other than that, we kind of see more or less mirror comps outside of the Tracer. Actually, we don't see mirror comps at all. They're running a Hog, so they're looking to slow push, kind of, sort of. I don't know where they're going to get to. My question always is when you have a Widow, you want to take the high ground, right? Usually you want to take this balcony. That's good with a D.Va and maybe a Winston, but you have a Orisa, so it's going to be tough if you go high ground to defend the Widow. But as you can see, that's not their plan at all. They're looking to take the right flank. And now the problem with a defense way back here, remember, as you defend farther and farther back, you open up more flanks. In fact, I have a picture that we can look at. Sorry for the clickies. Click, click, click. So King Chro is a really good example. You defend here, or here. You have little flanks at this point. As you defend here, they kind of get this. As you defend here, alright, now they kind of get this. As you fall back, alright, so they kind of get this and everything else. Same thing here. You see a lot of teams defend up here because you can hear people come this way, and then this way is a very, very long shot. But you have very few flanks open. Now if you defend here, alright, now this flank opens. You defend here, alright, now this flank open, and you have just the main path. This is kind of how Overwatch maps are designed. At first, you're going through a single choke point. Hanamura doesn't really account because it's a 2CP map. Same thing with Anubis. But Anubis kind of applies. That's what we're seeing here. If you defend right here, they have to run through here very, very quick and pick a side. You really don't have any open flanks until they're through this point. But back here, alright, they can go this way, they can go this way, they can go this way, and they can go this way. Just because you can't apply that much pressure. So falling back opens up flanks pretty much universally, which is what allows them to get all of this space. So there's the pull, D.Va absorbs it. Now the one thing that you do also need to know, very little vertical mobility. No, no, yes, no. Oh, yes. I made a checkpoint. I guess every 8 seconds, but yeah. So they have low vertical mobility, meaning this Widow, not much can get her. And also, there's that question we had before.
Yeah, you see as we're watching right now that Zunba is saving his defensive matrix for the...
Trying to get a pick, but shield's too much work. Remember the question before? How does Zen defend himself on the low ground all alone? The truth is, you don't. So the Zen Tracer are hiding by the staircase. We're just gonna play this and see what happens when you have a Zen. Try up. Zen's dead. The one flaw to this entire thing was Zen getting on the high ground. Zen wasn't on the high ground. The Zen gets picked immediately. The Tracers then rushed out and then killed. And at that point, 6v4, you can just do what you want. And then just show off.
Wow. I barely saw him in time, and in fact, he already had his mouse on Fletta's head.
He just turned casually, brushed him off his shoulder.
Your Overwatch said Zen got pulled off the high ground by the halt. No, no, that did not happen. If your Overwatch said that, they are 100% wrong, and they did not look at the video. I think at this point, it's hard to tell. Oh, there it was, the frame before. Did anyone see that? Hold on, I can move by frames. Bam! So Zen was holding the high ground across the way and was waiting for them to come in. So they're wrong. You can see them. You can see them right there. I know maybe you can't see them on your screen, but I guarantee if you go to 49 seconds on this video on your screen, you can see a very lightly shaded Zen. Also, you can see the halt get absorbed. And it just disappears. So no. Again, I don't know why I have to prove it, but your Overwatch is wrong. So the question is what was this defense thinking? I don't like to say, oh, man, Team X is dumb. Why did they do that? That was so dumb. They're a good team. Any team in Overwatch League is a good team. They had some idea of what they wanted to do. Now, if it went horribly wrong, that's cool. Whatever. But I try to think about, like, what the fuck were they thinking? We see them do this a lot better the next time around, and we will. So I'll just wait until their next defense. Accepting color being trans? Yeah, why the fuck wouldn't I? It's the dumbest question ever. Bam! So here is, we're going to see this problem a little bit more in the next time. But if you ever defend after the third tick, even sometimes after the second tick, the team can push up so quick from the first to the second point that you don't have time to set up. So, like, Miro just switched to Winston. Widow is still spawning. What this means is because Dallas has pushed up so fast, they cannot properly set up this defense. That formation, the two advantages of defense, 2 ADV of defense, is formation and map. Maps are usually designed for them. 1, formation. They cannot set up because everyone is dead. Bam. Map. Do they still have the map advantage? Yeah, they do. I mean, they still got to go through this choke point. Anubis is just very close quarters in general. So yeah, they're subjected to all these close quarter stuff. So yeah, okay, but they did take away half of the advantages.
So this is also a weird strategy on attack. We don't see very many slow approach strategies like that. And with the
slow to me.
it was slower than
So we see Effect go up here, looking for picks.
to the Reaper now.
And we're going to see...
Point B, they're sticking with this.
So, we're going to see... Here's Diva.
See if they get
And as the Diva goes up, we see the Winston go up as well. But also the enemy Diva went up. And the enemy Diva boops Diva off of the high ground onto the low ground, which gets eaten up. As this is happening, Effect gets a pick in the back line. It is now a 2v6, and those usually don't go well. They are running a Reaper, so Reaper on Anubis, once you get in, it's all close range stuff. And then Effect just owns the right spawn. Smart on his part right here. He goes back to the most defensible position where no one can do anything against them. And he just leaves his tanks and his close range heroes to fight on the point, which just grab it.
Take it right here, right now. They are 6:14. 6:14 on the clock. I have almost never, I can count the amount of times I've seen that much time in the time bank on this map on one hand.
Yeah.
Zunba really
Maybe half my fingers.
So that's how you get wiped. Essentially, you get wiped by defending the first point too long.
of aim that he has.
See, when my practice regimen is like a little bit of World of Warcraft and then some Reddit, and then I get scared and don't play ranked.
See, that's why we're standing where we are, Noah.
That's right. That's right. We don't have to worry. We don't have to win. That's the comforting thing for us.
But this is actually one thing I wish they would fix.
This style of
And I wanted it in TF2 as well. Essentially, when you capture a point, the enemy team should respawn. In fact, everyone should spawn.
go shock. So
Just immediately. It just prevents snowballs, and I don't care if people think it's balanced or not, it just leads to better games, which I would like.
support yet again.
True enough. Let's see what Fleta can do on this Genji.
And we see the lineups. Classic dive. Just... I think... I think Seoul, like, after the first game, they're like, alright, fuck it, we're just doing this for real. Seoul's so goddamn good at dive, and sticking to it's pretty much their strong suit. On defense, Junkrat, Widow, and Soldier, so they're running one support.
He's put in some pretty good performances on that here in the past.
Obviously, they favor longer ranges. Yeah.
He needs that upgrade. He doesn't have that one yet.
Omnic's not good at
But they defend close up, and essentially by defending that close up with a long range comp, all it takes is one movement ability to get onto your position, which is rough because now Winston's right on you, Diva's right on you, Genji's right on you, Tracer is going to be, or she's already on you. You're in a bit of trouble.
Trying to bust
So that that dash there, what did that dash give him? 15%? Yeah, straight to 17% alt. Good damage. Tracer's in the back, already harassing people.
of that high ground. Fleta going after him.
And Dive just starts picking apart stuff. And right there, Cooldown start getting up and they start picking the fights they want to pick. And that's the advantage of Dive.
hard for this Mercy to go ahead and
But
attempt to resurrect.
Dallas has a really interesting strategy, which we haven't seen much before. They go back into this little hallway to defend.
He's back in action.
Now, with an Orisa shield at the front, they essentially have a very strong shield at the front. And then you're trying to go through a very narrow corridor against a good Widow and a good Junkrat.
For the moment in Shanghai, or rather Seoul,
Uh,
has put in
This is dangerous. You can see, like, first of all, Genji right there just got caught in the trap. They throw Diva and Orisa right in the front.
backed into that stairway right now.
And as Seoul tries to attack, they just can't get much. They get picks every now and then, but with Mercy's reses and whatnot, it's pretty much evening out.
And Seoul looking like they may take a pretty quick one, unless maybe they have people at he res XQC. I didn't
So it was a really interesting idea that they fell back to the point where, yeah, they can get completely surrounded, but it didn't happen, and they just used the advantage of that small situation, even if it is, like, tactically, if you think about the global scheme of it, you're like, yeah, if you put a whole team back there, you're just going to die. Well, it depends on the situation, what heroes are being ran, and what's going on right then and there. And right then and there was not a lot. Like, they can dive on you, but everyone's weak. They're missing characters, and you're going up against a Junkrat, Soldier, Widow, on essentially an alleyway. Like, you're going to get shot. The Soldier did good work by flanking on top and just getting more damage over the top there. So this is a really cool thing. Probably the best view we have seen in Overwatch today. Tracer fucking around with the Widow back here. You got the 2 tanks over here. You got Genji down here. And you get 2 supports back here. Now, it's very difficult to do this. For everyone to collapse properly at the exact same time, the problem is not just doing it. You can say everyone go. But the problem is that this guy could take 2 seconds. These guys could take 10. This one could take 5. This one could take 3. Right? And if the defense deals with this properly, and they're like, all right, this guy came first, kill him, kill him. You know, all of a sudden your push is destroyed. So actually getting everyone on the point at the right time. So Winston initiates, as we can see, which is great. What does Winston do? He pushes everyone off. All right, so now everyone, except for Junkrat went up there. You madman. Everyone jumped off, and now everyone's on the ground. Great. That's great for these other heroes. So I know what they're calling right now. They're screaming Widow low, and then Mercy low. And so everyone starts focusing on those 2 heroes. Once those 2 heroes are down, Genji's blade comes out, gets enough kills. Here's the big advantage. At this point, it's pretty much won. Just because respawns are so much quicker for attack. They're going to get the point of this one. So very good collapse on Seoul's part. And even during the collapse, like, it was really good target prioritization. They saw what targets they got weak, and Dive, doing what Dive does, caught them. And for those that are wondering, the whole thing with Dive is, the really good thing about Dive is with low cooldowns, right? Low cooldown, low cooldown, low cooldown, low cooldown. I mean, they're all, like, I believe 6 seconds or less. Dash 8 seconds. His jump, I believe, is 6. Her thrusters are 5. Oh, that's Tracer. 5, and blink, you know. So, essentially, they want to dive on ones. And if you break up, if you scatter, that's what Dive wants. Because they're going to get their movement abilities faster than you are. And they're going to go, oh, this guy that splintered is weak. Oh, we put 3 people on this person. Kill him.
Coming into this with a lot of momentum. This is their big chance to try to put a good time on the time bank themselves. Yeah, they have to snowball this right now to have a shot. I like this little fact. Let's look at Mickey's ult percentage. Because Winston has 350 health. Alright, he's losing. He goes up to 1,000. Mickey was at 60%. He's at 32%. He is down to dead. Mickey is now up 50% ult, and I think that was 3 seconds. Really, really good. These guys are standing up. Thank you for standing up. Sit back down, people. Riptire gets nothing, but the Diva ult overhead did get something. And so now they're diving, right? Numbers disadvantage for Dallas. As they see weak targets, they keep taking them out. It's just a murder. That's it. So the one thing important about Dive on 2CP is you kind of want to stagger. Like, you want to stagger a couple people and then kill everyone else in one group. And that's because if they try to stagger and stall the point, you can easily kill someone that just, like, if one person comes out, you got 6, just kill them right away. It's important to kill people like that. I would say get 1 or 2 picks and then jump on the entire group. If you can pull it off, by the time the next person comes out, you just kill them again and it staggers it. And they should never have a chance to defend.
I suppose it is, just an ineffective one at that.
That was a bongo doing work. Oh yeah, that was 100% Bongo whooping ass. So here we go, same defense. And the Widow likes to start closer, and then she's going to grapple back as soon as they encroach.
Yeah, I mean, when you go back to this sort of high ground defense, it's kind of kicking it old school a little bit. I feel like teams like Seoul and like a lot of other teams a long time ago have figured out how to dive this properly. All right, they're diving now.
So there's the dive. Genji gets fucking thrown into outer space by Junkrat. He dies. That's great. But again, everyone splits up, and then they start taking the fights they want to take. Oh, a trapped Mercy. That's the worst thing in the world. And as usual, Tracer just whooping ass. So this is what Dive does. Dive wants you to scatter. And then it wants to find out which parts it can kill of the scatter, and then move from there. The fact that the Widow just doesn't have a single time that was like her single shot that she had that was uncontested. Right? Someone was always in her face while she was fighting.
Their strategy the first time was to plop down the healing station from the Soldier 76 and try and fight on that on the initial dive. This time around, though,
should they have stayed together on the high ground? The problem is Dive does really good AoE damage. With Winston and Genji, like they can just more or less spam into a crowd and get a lot of damage done. And then Tracer, if one person's weak, Tracer's gonna target them down.
My genius is finally recognized.
So this is actually, it was hard for me to keep track of everything here. This is actually something I like doing with Junkrat. You just use your ult, someone's going to try to kill you, and then you kill him. Good res. Where was I at? Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. So, am I at the wrong point in my notes? Dives too far to get Zen's ult out. Okay, no. No, I'm at the wrong point of my notes. I apologize. So this right here, this is the first... Right there was actually really important, and a lot of people don't know that. What they did is they attacked, and they just shoot everyone off of this first defense point. From here to here and back. And there's that little ring up here that people stand on. It just kind of like, they're like, hey, fuck off. We want to own this part of the map, which they do. And then they want to attack from there, so they have just an easier time attacking. Essentially what this does is it allows Winston... Because Winston cannot leap from back here. And right here is cutting it close. He usually wants to be a little bit further to get a leap off. And same thing with Diva's thrusters. All these characters want to be a little bit closer than you think to land on your back lines with their movement abilities. So what it does is it gives them that little bit of space to hit on the back lines. Taimu should have been camping the shit out of this Tracer. Tracer's so valuable right now. So here they are, they're getting all their picks. Yeah, it's actually really hard to tell what happened here. They just get a shit ton of picks. And then that's the point. Of course, Zen's a monster.
Oh boy, this one's getting good. And this is where the old team of Lunatic High was so effective. This is why they are...
Yeah, that's actually what I put. So during that one, I was just... The big note is briefly the Winston pushing everyone from the first defense point back a little bit farther, which allows Dives to get on top of their defenses in the back right corner. Let me just see if I did that. So yeah, so this is the push. Alright, now they can get in striking range with dive.
Go in now. Munchkin very low on the outside, has to recall. He's in a safe spot though.
And that's what we'll see. We'll see D.Va and Winston just screwing with people. Like, they dominate this right side.
Munchkin, but Toby's coming in with the resurrect. Mickey wants to zone them off the point. He's trying to get as much time as he can.
And then move from there.
Buy as much as possible. Yeah, Munchkin brought up.
The important part is getting close enough to actually be able to do that.
A lot of healing in with this Valk, but
Soul is changing it up.
So, a little bit of a different strat.
Right after they go in from the choke point, and they're not going to give any shots to effect in the meantime.
seems to be the setup.
Do you think maybe, or you could use something to get dives AoE damage? No.
Side of Dallas.
You may be able to mitigate damage, but it can't mitigate her damage.
Firing from on high, coming down.
So this I like.
Wow, right on the chips. Great rockets.
I actually love this type of stuff.
Out of commission.
There's a point that no one really understands in Overwatch, and that is attackers have to attack and defenders have to defend. That means I don't give a fuck where your people are. I don't care what strategy you're doing. If I jump on point, you have to get on point. That's it. That's all there is to it.
A different tactic this time. They used a Lucio speed boost.
The actual coolest part about this move to me is while they do rush in,
Kill effect. There's very low damage output on the side of Dallas.
so watch this. They all boost in. Or do they?
Very low damage output on the side of Dallas.
Right? They all boost in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh! They don't. The truth is this is a 5-1 flank. Because that Widow, that Widow, it's like the Statue of Liberty play in football. They, as they push in, it's really hard to understand that all 6 or 5 are all there. Now, if you push with 4, it's very easy to see that. They're missing some players. But with the 5-1 flank, you push so hard with 5, you're like, that's all of them. So the entire team responds to that.
Wow, right on the chips. Great rockets. Gets hooked.
And we actually see,
The Mercy's already out of commission.
immediately, Widow gets a pick by the time they're like, oh shit,
Or maybe it does. Yeah.
that Widow is not with them.
And they managed to grab
So not only does Widow get a pick, but the Genji is stuck on the Widow the entire time, which essentially makes this a 4v5, which is great.
So even though the healer goes down, a different tactic this time. They used a Lucio
And now
speed boost to get
they're trying to defend,
force the dive
which is tough.
play into them on the tanks. So they just ignore the dive. They say you can't catch us. We're gonna move faster by amping it up.
So remember what I said about defending when there's like, I don't know, 33% or 66% left? Well, this is like 90%.
Where you just get hooked and die.
And this is
Lucio. They had Harry Hook on the Lucio in their first attack.
this is honestly why I hate 2CP.
Time going straight up the middle. And Soul
2 of their players, alright, Tracer just spawned, D.Va is just spawning. So, they were unable, whoa, that was different button, sorry about that. They were unable to defend, like, this first area that everyone likes to defend. Not only that, but as they try to get in position, they're trying to force in the apply theory, this is the logistics phase. Essentially, they're trying to set up as the enemy's pushing in, which is bad. The people stuck in the logistics phase are going to get their ass kicked. Because they're not grouped up, they're not defending properly. The Widow, obviously, she gets a pick right away, but as the Genji's trying to defend, put pressure on the Widow, and just try to get in position, he gets hooked, and he gets killed. Again, at this point, I kind of consider this stuff trivial. If Seoul defends, then I'm like, alright, we need to make note of how Seoul defended, because that's really important. How do they overcome the severe disadvantage? If Dallas wins this fight, I'm just like, well, yeah, they would.
This just keeps on going. Effect still has that angle. A hook on the side. Toby switching to the Sombra just to get
Well, Dallas is doing good here.
nearly done.
Athletic can't dislodge effect. He loses that duel again. Transcendence for J-Home just trying to buy time for
So I know this is going on and on and on, but this is all just,
with the primal rage.
they're still staggered, they're still at a numbers disadvantage, they're just going to get punched in the face until they all die.
Time who misses a hook, but they've chased the Winston back again.
They have, but they're still not getting this actual point.
And
And this is just Seoul's tenacity at holding point. And this is a very... I've seen it like 5 or 6 times now, and I just have to chalk it up to Seoul's chemistry. Back from their Lunatic High days. They can stagger so well. It's actually insane. They essentially... I just don't know how they do this. But they can rotate people on the point, where just one guy's going to be on the point. And then as soon as that guy leaves, like, a second guy gets on the point. And it's so hard to communicate this. And you gotta have so much faith on your team, because, like, that clock is just ticking up the whole time. They do this flawlessly, and I actually don't think they communicate. I would actually like to hear their comms when they're doing this. This is how they pull back points from the brink of capture every single time.
Two teams, they just want to see how many total points they can score on Anubis, I guess.
And back to the classic dive composition for the Seoul Dynasty.
Oh yeah, no, I know they do it on Ilios too. They do this, like, they can stall for so long, and on 2CP, the stalls, they just start getting the respawn advantage. All that happens is they need to take 1 or 2 out and they start winning. So, this looks similar, but they're not grouped up this time. So, this was actually all set up by the Tracer. Fleta did a good job. Like, don't get me wrong, Fleta did really good on cleaning up. But this is dive comp.
For that perfect opportunity for the dive, and now it's going to come in. All right, they're going to go.
So they dive.
Yeah, they're not all grouped up, so
and we actually see Widow. I think she only gets 1 shot off this entire time.
notice that they've actually spread out Dallas fuel on this defense.
Yeah.
But the Winston keeping the Junkrat low, and we're going to see that I mean, look, she's already at 40%. Alt charge, because she's just harassing the hell out of people. Good deflect, good kill, and then Genji, I mean, he only has 50% alt. That goes to show you he's cleaning up and he's not doing a lot of damage, while the Tracer is, you know, at alt already. This is dive with Tracer. It's hard to explain. You want to dive on them, and then you want to find weak targets, and change from there.
But Seoul takes a step back, they look at that defense, and then they call targets efficiently, so everybody is following Fleta's lead as he starts to pick up those kills.
I mean, Fleta's good, don't get me wrong, but Munchkin set that entire point up.
We are going in to a possible 6th point for Seoul Dynasty, and again, the momentum is theirs. Taimu over on the Sombra now, so there's your adaptation from Dallas, but will it be enough?
Taimu.
So here we see just some pokes. I'm not actually sure the point of this. Maybe they want to build up ults and see what they can get.
Get the EMPs up as fast as they can. Munchkin going to be the first of all. XQC will get the kill.
Good target selection from Fleta, finishing off XQC there on the Winston.
Yeah, I mean, they get some kills, but it doesn't matter. It's defense.
Dallas coming back, winning this fight. And it looks
This was just good defense.
for probably the first time in
Basically, the guys that don't... What happens a lot with dive is if you dive too far, you get picked off. That's kind of what happened to Genji there.
About Temple of Anubis very often, but the execution by the attacking teams has been clean, and now
and this kind of happens with... It's really hard. When you do dive versus dive, what I don't like about it, it's just kind of strength versus strength, and the stronger team wins. Which is cool if you're the stronger team, but a lot of random shit can happen in Overwatch, and it's just... I don't want to say it's less reliable, it's just... It's risky. So here we go, they dive on the Zen. They bait out, quote-unquote, bait out the Zen ult. But they suffer a death. And then they suffer another death. Essentially, the 2 people that dove, the Tracer and the Winston, both get killed. We can see it, yeah, we can see it right here. These are the 2 guys that dove, and they're like, oh, we can dive this for free and respawn. The truth is, they're diving against a dive comp. So while, yeah, you do dive on 2CP, you will respawn quick, but they can get to the point very, very fast. So they get on point, and now once they get on point, they can dive on whoever they want. The point's central enough that you can do whatever you want from that point with dive comp. Everything's within your grasp. So Valkyrie ends. We see Genji's ult. There's Zen end. There's Zen ults to stop it. And then we start seeing Tracer pop off.
Yeah, man, it's all Munchkin right now. Got a couple, paved the way for his team to come back in. That's going to be the first tick for them on point B. Taimu trying to buy as much time as possible. Gets out for the moment. Trying to stay alive.
It's hard to talk more about this. But it was the Tracer cracking open the back lines of the defense. And then, for whatever reason, and I can understand this. Let's see if we can see where Tracer... Yeah, there's... So Tracer gets both supports. And then we'll see a lot of action take place over here. I can't exactly tell. I mean, there's the Winston over there. I think the Tracer's over there. Maybe probably the Sombra as well. But this is just all time on the point. Well, the Sombra's not there because Sombra's right there. So I wasn't quite sure what was going on in the back lines. I'm assuming Tracer, Winston, harass. But getting split up like that and not defending on the point kind of cost them a lot of time. And at this point, it's all about focus fire.
And Seoul looking good, but a lot of time getting chewed off the clock here by Dallas. Transcendence now for Jaehong. They've nearly got less than 30 seconds remaining.
I do want to notice one thing about Jaehong. He's at 84%, and he's getting a lot of damage in. And you can see him almost die. So he's taking damage, he's almost dead. Gets healed back up. And he should drop pretty low. Yep, there he is. He's at 50% health. Gets healed again. He's fighting someone, and then bam, Transcendence. It's not just good play by the Zen. We can't see his exact moves, but it's really good play. When he's regenning like that, that means it's good play on him, and his team is helping him a lot. So it's a good idea supporting the supports, because on an extended push like this, that's what's going to win you the game. And that's, in fact, what does win them the game. The point is so close that you saw when the Mercy there was healing everyone, it healed legitimately everyone. Yeah, Pulse was eating. Yeah, that is true. I know the announcer goes, hey, he timed that Pulse Bomb correctly, even though the top right does not show the Pulse Bomb. So here it is again. So we asked this the first time they ran this, right? What were they thinking? And we're going to see it a lot better. First of all, look who's up here. Look who's fucking up here. It's Zen. That was one of the parts missing before. So Dive is essentially head-to-head. Nobody trying to tip the chair. Yeah, more or less. I would consider Diver's Dive quite head-to-head. It's very aggressive, and that's why it works. So they apply their identical strategy as they did before. We see Dallas do the exact same thing as well. So, right here. This is a very important part, because a lot of people don't understand this, but my chat does, because my chat's the greatest. Why are they running here? Right? We've talked about this. We talked about this. They're all up on the high ground, right? Complete Anakin style. They can't, like, they got the high ground. If they try, like, a triple flip, their legs are going to be cut off. So why is Dallas doing this? The buildings are too steep. High ground doesn't mean anything if you let the point go uncontested. So yes, that is one of them. One, defenders have to defend. They have to get on this point. Two, remember, high ground does have a blind spot. It's right below it. In fact, high ground gives you information, and it also gives you options. Those are the two things we've always said about high ground. If high ground doesn't give you these two, it's not high ground. Well, it's high ground, but it doesn't act as high ground. So we do have some false high grounds in the game. They do have some information, but anything in the blind spot, they can't really tell. Also, their options, they still have options. Those are still there because they could drop down here. They could drop down here. They still have different ways to go, but it does limit them. I would say it limits some of their options and it limits some of their information. So this is essentially a way of negating high ground just a little bit. It's kind of taking the edge off. So they keep on trying to halt him off, and Seoul does not want to come down. And then they do. So as everyone rushes towards the point, remember what happened with the 5-1 split last time? Well, let me tell you one thing Seoul remembers. So they're like, hey guys, they put 5 on the point, but they left the Widow behind. And so the Tracer, who you just saw back there, Tracer and Widow are having a little duke out. Spoiler, Tracer wins. As for this Orisa, I wasn't exactly sure how she gets picked off, but it looked like her shield went down a little bit too early. And she's just not behind her shield when she dies. Now the smart part is we see Fleta right here. So the important thing about rotations, if someone rotates in, you rotate on that rotate as they're rotating, and this is actually the safest area in the game. Pretty much. Right? What's there? Well, everyone's over here. She's as far away as you can. So, rotating on the rotation is really, really good. Good old Diva. That's what you get for piloting that goddamn mech.
So they can create a crossfire between the bulk of their team on the point and the Widowmaker on the far side. Great positioning.
Great Diva stall too. I mean, that really
so there was Zen, and this is an important part. Zen, not on this, but Zen's in the high ground along with the Tracer. And so they're essentially, their job is just to mess with the backlines. So what do they do again? And it's hard to see in the small screen, but they speed boost on the point again. Now, Widow does something really weird. I'm not exactly sure why Widow is this close. But Orisa moves her shield. And I think Effect was depending on that shield because he just gets crushed. So now they're right below the high ground, and this is their idea of their defense. But the problem is one, Widow's dead. Two, their backlines are being harassed by, you know it, the Tracer. So what happens is as they pushed in, we can see Tracer doing something. Tracer is fighting people over here. And what this has done is driven a wedge between the two parts of the team. And this is really, really important. So this is one of the other advantages of Tracer just being aggressive. So we got Zen up here. We got the rest of the team up here, and Tracer's in the backlines. We see part of the... Well, we kind of see all of the Dallas Fuel up here. Now, Dallas Fuel back off, except for these guys. And this is where the issue happens. We have 3 people here, 1 just died, and you have 2 other people over here. Well, there's Diva, and then the last member is way over there. So what happens is Mercy goes, oh crap, I have to help those guys over there. Lucio's like, I have to help those guys over there. XQC's like, oh shit guys, I don't have mobility. I can't help those guys over there. So he tries to do what he can. As soon as Seoul notices, they're like, what the fuck is Orisa doing alone on point? Gets destroyed. Tracer still uncontested in the back lines, keeping them all busy, and gets a pick. So many deaths, they have to reset.
Chips will be there by the time this next fight starts. Harry Hook looking at that sound barrier as a method to get his team to hold on to this point.
Yeah, that one was... People blame XQ... If people blame XQC on that last one, that is bullshit. His supports up and left him. Like, you can at least be like, hey, XQC, we're gonna speed boost you out of here. Let's go back with our team. They're just like, nah, fuck it, man. Supports, roll out. XQC, you stay there. And he just died because of it.
It does move slowly onto the point. Takes a lot of time to set up.
So that's really good calling. Fleta's part.
Set up the crossfire again. Trying to punish that Bercy, but not going to find it.
So we should note, at this point in time, Orisa's still on that high ground. They have not managed to knock the Orisa off. And it's mostly because they got no mobility. They got Diva. That's the only thing that can really scale vertically. Again, rotate on the rotations. At this point, Fleta has essentially uncontested on the sight line, which is the point. We still see the Orisa on the high ground, killing a Widow, and gets her body punched off the top.
Some headshots coming in, but again, Fleta may just have to watch his team lose the point here. Or maybe not. Mickey D Mech, XQC low.
And, I mean, this is just like, they can't jump on the point because everyone's all around them. Also because the Widow.
Gotta get that shield up. There's the supercharger as well to help. Doesn't last long as Zunba takes it down. But so far, Dallas still sitting on the point. But as I say that, time move.
Oh, that Orisa on the high ground. Look at that. That's beautiful.
Claim it fully again. They are going to take it. So Dallas's next shot comes from Chips being closer to
So,
Valkyrie.
at this point in time, and we just see a bunch of changes. No high ground mobility. Where's everyone at on the high ground? They jump to the high ground over here. They just keep on dancing around them. I mean, Zen was even on the high ground over here. They can't contest them at all. They just can't do anything about it. And the one thing I like about Fleta, what he did on that one, yes, Fleta did jump up here again. But I think Fleta, I can go back. But Fleta was depending on the Mercy to resurrect the Widow here. Because if there's no resurrection, the Widow's going to spawn here, and he has a perfect sight on Fleta. So he's like, you know what? You're going to res that Widow because you need to. So I'm going to take the furthest point from your entire team, which is right here, and then use this resurrection against yourselves. It could be debated that if he let Fleta, or if he let Taimu respawn and use the resurrection on someone else, the push could have worked. Good picks, and this is just Taimu or Fleta just being Fleta. You get a pick, they res, you get another pick. This is just all stalling for time.
Another kill onto effect here. And man, when it comes down to it, Fleta has really become the hero for Seoul on this map.
Who would have thought, but the old roster of Lunatic High is better with Fleta. As we might
So we're just Widow doing Widow stuff.
Nice shot on XQC, and he can't quite make it out.
Just so much stalling.
Untouchable at this point.
Almost gets this Mercy too. That would have been a beautiful shot.
They keep getting picked off. Mickey now at the late stall, 25 seconds. They cannot be in the line of sight of this Widowmaker any longer.
So he switches it up, which is always a good thing. If a Widow, if they know where you're at, switch it up. So here we go. 13 seconds left. They got one last push. What do they do? Probably the thing they should have done in the first place when they saw him on the high ground. And they finally just dive the high ground. Fleta pieces out, and from over here he doesn't have a really good angle. So this is actually good for Dallas. Their Widow does not... The Seoul Widow doesn't have a good angle. Second of all, this is good for Dallas. They're finally off the goddamn high ground. They got the Soldier, who at least can deal full damage up to the high ground. They got the Genji that can directly contest the high ground. Winston, most importantly, to get on the high ground. Now they can finally do what they needed to do in the first place. They get a bunch of picks. but Dragon Blade is a really good ultimate. So there.
Oh man, maybe they should have saved that sound barrier though, because they've got 30 seconds, and that could have.
So that was just good on Dallas's part. They finally made the changes they need to contest the high ground. Also, when you go from Widow to another DPS in your ultimate, Widow's ult's really good, but there is something to be said about an ultimate that just puts bullets in someone's face, or a Dragon Blade that's super consistent. Information's a great ult, but if you know where they're all standing at, it's not that great. So here we go, and we start sealing the Soul Shuffle. These guys are so damn good at the Soul Shuffle, I'm pretty sure they invented it. So they got one on point still. Alright, now they start getting it. There's one on point. There's two on point. Toby! Look at this guy. Their individual, this is where their individual skill really starts to shine, and it's like, alright, they're not just a team of people that can play together really well. They're a team of extremely skilled individuals. So, Toby runs across everyone, survives, and stalls the point while no one was on it. Now Winston's on the point. Or Reaper. Reaper and Winston, actually. Reaper D-Max, and this is what Soul is looking for. Whenever you're doing the Soul Shuffle, you're looking for one pick, and then you're supposed to stall the point, and you're just trying to get another pick. So, we still have one person on point. And now, they start getting one by one. And this is, this is the Soul Shuffle. It's so good. They have one guy on point all the time. They run him off. They'll run them back on. Keep on getting little bit by little bit of damage. And then once all they need is one pick. Yeah, XQC can't do it. I know people probably give him shit for jumping off like that. But, having 200 health next to a Reaper doesn't mean shit. You're going to die. So, I would love to hear the coordination of the shuffle, because they do this on every map, and they do it so well they've won multiple upon multiple games with this maneuver. Now someone was saying XQC missed his jump. Is that the jump you're talking about? The problem is if you're... Alright, so I know a lot of people give XQC a lot of shit, but it's just because he's always under the spotlight. What was I gonna say? I had something good to say. What do you do against the Soul Shuffle? You have to find out what people are jumping on point and kill them. Like that... Toby should not have been able to do this. It's like, hey guys, you're stalling the point, don't mind me. And they're like, ah, what the fuck? And then he made it out. But what I was about to say about XQC is that a lot of people, especially in basketball, actually all sports, but mainly basketball, maybe football, they always look at the last play and they're like, this is why you lost. This is it. The one thing that you could have lost. You know what, don't worry about this being an entire game and it going 5v6 and you had 12, 13 minutes to actually do something different that could have been the change anywhere else and anyone else could have fixed this. No, this one thing that I'm focusing on is the issue. If you did this, we would have won. And it's like, you know what? You're fucking wrong. Focusing on one play forgets about the other 99% of the game that was played. Don't do that. The other 99% is just as important than the last 1%. I see this in basketball all the time and it pisses me off. They complain about the last call the ref made or the last shot someone made. And they're like, well, we would have won if you made that one shot. It's like, shut up, bitch. If you made 2 shots in the first quarter, you would have won the game. So stop bitching. But yeah, no, this Soul Shuffle is so good. As soon as I saw the DMAC, I was like, oh god, Soul's actually going to hold this. As soon as they get one pick, it's over. So, Let's go to the next game. Actually, let me get some water. Listen to some sweet-ass tunes. I need something to drink. I like that song. Oh, this is map 4. What are you doing? My notes are all wrong. And the problem with XQC is, yeah, it's not XQC at all. It's just all the crazy asses around him. He's essentially the most popular Overwatch League streamer. So of course there's going to be a lot of drama around him just because people are shitty people. From what I hear he's a good guy. He's actually really, really willing to work with people behind the scenes and whatnot. It's just, yeah, fanboys and just the popularity around him. It's not even him himself. Vodka, what do I think about the Junkrat nerf? Overwatch Central did a video with me on it. They interviewed me, and I gave my full thoughts there. So, bam! Ilios. King of the Hill. What do we see? We see a Pharah, and we see a Widow. Essentially mirror comps. You got a Pharah, you got a Widow. You know, whatevs. Both picks are really good. It depends how you use them, which is good. That's how the game should be. Essentially, they have to deny Widow her sight lines. Pharah needs to at least get up to midfield and be able to put pressure down on choke points.
As good as it gets, as we see Dallas Fuel and Seoul Dynasty charging into each other.
So, note point right now. For whatever reason, and it seems like just because they got there faster, Dallas owns mid. I know it's a very subtle thing, but you'll see why in a second. Because Dallas owns this room and they own midfield, right? Like they own midfield. Right here's the midline. They own past that. It actually makes it more difficult for Dive to get on your backlines because now Dive has to start from here instead of right here, which allows them to not get on your backlines. We see this with Miro. Miro jumps on a little bit too far away. And we're seeing this a lot. This is essentially a lot of tech that I haven't seen before that we're seeing a lot now. Diva booping Winston in midair to mess up his leap. So, Miro had to jump from too far away, and he also gets booped, which means he's going to die. And we can see that Doe from too far away. This is the advantage of taking the midpoint. Yeah. They bully the Widow back, which is great. You can't let the Widow get set up. Again, Pharah staying above where they can hit her and shooting down into essentially a choke point with a little bit of cover. Pharah's bread and butter. Now this is harder to see, and it's tough. So Widow at this point will no longer land any shots. Essentially, Widow is taken out of the game at this point. For whatever reason, Taimu can't find a lead, can't find a point to hit the enemy. It's because the team's on point and they're undercover. But the difference is Effect is doing really good work. He already hunted on one support, he killed the Mercy, and he's going for the other support, which isn't a bad thing. But if one DPS is busy hunting supports, the other DPS has already died and didn't get any shots, that means your point is vulnerable because your tanks are against DPSers and supports. That's why XQC died. XQC had little to no support on point. Tracer just lands a good pulse bomb. We see the other tank get demeched, and at this point, they got tanks and DPSers against just not that. So they're gonna win out eventually. Just the constant damage of tanks on a Tracer essentially was what bullies her out of the point.
Is that the reverse caster curse? When you say something bad is happening and then something good happens to the player?
What's great for the fuel?
The caster blessing. That's what we call it.
Now this move, like the Widow should have died there, and the Mercy I know should have died there. This is something as a Junkrat I know, and I think most Pharahs and Junkrats should know this, and everyone else in the game by proxy should know this as well. When you are doing this, so when you're sliding on a roof, you do not make any noise. So this is completely silent. Those two jump jets, that was probably heard, but at that point it's too late. Like, man, Widow is, I think she's legitimately at 1 health. Widow should have been dead there, and if Pharah got the pick, this little ledge actually really gets her good. Stops it. So, the idea I think was great, and it did at least keep the back lines occupied for Tracer to kill the Winston. Now, they start fighting on point. With the Mercy pick and the Pharah pick, now they're going to start getting on point with ultimates. And this is where Pharah more or less can have a hard time. She has to get back to mid, and she has to get their one alive. This was a good boop by Harry Hook. And that's why, if anyone can test why that ult was so bad right here, he just gets booped as he ulted. I don't think it was timed or anything. I think Harry Hook just booped him to get him away, and it just so happened that Toby ulted. Which pushes him really far away and kind of gets everyone on the point not getting the ult. Pharah is still stuck way out here. As you can see, she's laying down damage, but it's a little bit willy-nilly. So it's not like really confirmed damage. Widow has also a good point. I mean, that was a good boop again. The Widow did get the Mercy yet again. D.Va has to dive the Widow, and at that point, it's just the numbers advantage is too much for Seoul.
They're nearly at 80%.
They gained a lot of percent just on this extended fight, and Dallas made.
It was good openings by Dallas. It did kind of get opened by Seoul missing the rocket barrage and kind of getting caught behind enemy lines. That was the kickstarter to the whole thing. But Dallas had good follow-up.
Upcoming team fight. In fact, has his pulse bomb. And he's just trying to make sure there aren't going to be anybody jumping from behind.
This is Tracer just doing Tracer stuff.
Does have to recall early, so he's not going to have an immediate opportunity.
Yeah, in fact, trying to be the Winston Hunter there for the second. Tosses out the pulse.
So this is a good time to bring up this concept. So this, if you remember, this is Dallas's side. And there's this thing where you want to spread out. So a lot of teams you'll see on the ladder, they'll just push out this way, straight down. and you kind of get stuck in a choke point. You take a lot of damage. What you see a lot of pro teams do, you'll see that on this map and the next map, is that they spread out and they attack through 3 different pathways usually. Essentially, they just spread out the surface area so you can't easily get a lot of damage on them. Also, it allows them to have a larger attack surface on you, and they can kind of get a surround. They can see if something's open. If it's not open, then they can go somewhere else. Essentially, it lets them poke and prod for more information and find vulnerabilities in your defense. So in this point, they wrap all the way around, and what's the vulnerability they see? Well, Dallas is spread really thin. A lot of Dallas is back here, and they take a lot of damage from all of this. So the Pharah, they kind of get traded and rezzed. But this is all happening in the back lines. Eventually, the Tracer goes down, and I wish I could have an above shot of Ilios. Did they show one? So what happened there, I wish I had an above shot, is that Dallas spread out like this. I don't know, I guess. It would be in this room, and they spread out from here down to here. Now Seoul spread out the other way. They were over here. Now, as Seoul was pressuring right here, everyone from Dallas comes back in to assist them. And what that does is it allows Dallas, the back end of them, to come on point and take this. So if we go all the way back here, so here we see, like you see Harry Hook right here, you see everyone in this room, there's everyone up there. Essentially they walk past them and then they dive on their back lines, and that's now everyone's kind of forced to be over here, and they pull a little switcheroo. As they're fighting over here, we're going to see the control point start to take up pretty soon. See, they're already, even after these 2 reses happen, essentially this is 6v6 again, the ticker starts going up. So they just pressured them so hard that all of Dallas came back. They gave up their advantage of, essentially once you take the point, you're defending, and defenders have the advantage naturally. This little maneuver removed that defensive advantage because it forced them to move because they dive on their back lines. Dallas responded a little bit too hard, and Seoul just went straight for the point. Which is cool. It's almost like fake pressure, but you throw a Pharah in there with an ult to make it look like real pressure. And that's the point. So I thought that was a little, like, tactically, I like that stuff where they push them back with the illusion of, you know, you losing your whole team, and then they're like, hey guys, remember it's King of the Hill, you gotta take the point, and they just take the point, and they start fighting on point at that time.
Even when they start to lose a fight. Man, I mean, that would be the opposite of what you normally see from Dallas.
Again, we see a bit of a different lineup from them, from Dallas. Junkrat, he's a cool guy. Hog, McCree, but they're just running the same stuff. Especially with Well, obviously Pharah with the blast. Toby, I called him Toby instead of Lucio. Lucio with the boop, incredibly strong. So this point gets opened up very quickly. Right there, Concussive Blast kills Junkrat. Then that falls, but here's the bigger thing. Is that low mobility, low mobility, low mobility. And the tanks are really going to dictate how the team sets up. So what they're looking for is a shield right here. The problem with this is just the shape of the shield should show you how they're defending. This defense is strong this way. It's weak on the flanks. And with a Pharah, this is bad. And we'll see that. So while they group up behind the shield, yeah, they get a couple picks, they trade. It's about even now. But Winston just dives on top of them, gets a shit ton of damage from And with the D.Va's defense matrix, he's not taking much. But with that and the Pharah, outputting a lot of AoE damage when everyone is stuck in this point. This choke point is very small, and this is kind of the theme of this map on this stage. This choke point is going to be the death of Dallas.
You know, Dallas still doing a lot of experimenting in this match. It is interesting to see them swap heroes up like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if I'm a huge fan.
So again, look, see? They set up the shield, and then they sit behind it. So what happens? Again, remember, falling is silent. Pharah just jumps on the back line where they're all grouped up because of two factors. One, the shield. Right? They're all going to be behind the shield. And two, behind the shield is a very small choke point. I mean, you can see it right here. I mean, this is where everyone is grouping up this entire game. That's perfect. I don't care if you're safe from this area. Pharah's going to get in through one of these areas and take you down.
You don't see that one very often.
And now we're already up to 40%. Taimu be walking back in with a rip tire. He can manage to get high enough in this guy. Maybe he can go ahead and take out Jaehong before he uses that.
You can see Pharah just laying down damage on that choke point still. And here they have the ult advantage. So what do? They go in the choke point, launch a D.Va bomb. They get a couple kills, and that's pretty much going to keep the point theirs. This is really close. Junkrat almost got him. So here we go. Everyone's stuck, and there's Pharah's ult again. It's the same story over and over and over. They're stuck in a choke point. Pharah ults them. Now the announcers think Junkrat's great for hitting a stationary Pharah, but what do they do with this space? The answer is nothing. Dallas Fuel stay in that space. Right? And Winston keeps them in this space constantly. They haven't been able to get on point once.
Seoul Dynasty is they just delay long enough. I mean, even if you're winning a fight, they just manage to hold on so long that look at this. Seoul Dynasty already nearing 99%.
So here we go. This is the first time they've been able to get on point. More or less. But they I think Seoul noticed. So Pharah was probably going this way. I'm pretty sure that was his original thought. But there's not many people there. And then they're like, oh, they must be over here. So that's where the dive is called, right? We see Winston jump on this. They dive on the back lines. So as Dallas rotated in, Seoul goes, that's not a lot of people. Where's the other people? Seoul rotates on the rotation. And now, this is the funny part. I'll change color. But the people that are just pushed away right there, they're going to roll right here. And we're going to see Seoul cut them off at that same choke point. And essentially rotate on the rotate. Here it is. They're still there. Get a boop kill. And if anyone says Pharah's ult is weak, I just want you to see that. Pharah's ult is one of two ults in the games that do damage immediately. So, about a quarter of a second, she did 200 damage. And it takes out Widow, which is really important because, I mean, look at the point now. I know Widow may or may not have done a lot of work there, and Toby's just getting, yeah, more boops. And he's really telegraphing this stuff. But, yeah, kills the Widow, or kills the Mercy. That's 3 kills. Basically would have killed the Widow there as well. Lucio did good work, but this entire point was Pharah shooting people at the choke point and no one doing a damn thing about it. She had so much damage over the top. The Orisa, once she put down the shield, you're kind of committed from defending that way, and they couldn't secure their flanks. This was a failure on the flank part. Well, defending their flanks, I should say. Yeah, it was rough. And Toby's Damn, he's a monster. So yeah, Seoul wins that one. Pretty well. Like, there wasn't much to talk about there, and they did a damn good job.
Yeah, I think we match by match basis. We don't know what they.
I actually look at chat. These are the questions. This map has never seemed so small after hearing Chro explain it. Yeah, that map is actually super small. Once you get on the point, it's a little bit bigger, but it's essentially like Anubis size. It really is. It's basically the Anubis of the King of the Hill maps. So why Pharah is so great at King of the Hill? Why Koreans tend to stick with her? Pharah's good just because every King of the Hill map is the same. It goes like this. There's spawn area, 2 paths to a midpoint. Well, I shouldn't say that. Hold on. So it's spawn. You go through some big area, and then you go through a choke point, and then you get to mid. And there's the point. Now, there will be 2 flanks. One will be open. One will be closed. By open, I usually mean there's no walls, you can see someone flanking, and there's usually a health pack. Closed means there's going to be walls, so you can't see someone flanking. And this is kind of the hidden path. The problem is all of these paths are choke points, and they usually have a high skybox, or just some vertical mobility that you can hide behind. Pharah's strong because, again, she can put damage on these choke points anywhere from a pretty safe distance. The other thing is that Pharah, most 2CPs have open air, and that means you can fly essentially anywhere and cut people off. So if there's any kind of ground buildings or anything like that, like if people are defending here and they try to run back, Pharah can just go over the top. She can get some sneaky damage in. Also, midfield is usually sometimes larger than normal. So like Nepal Village, the one... sorry, that's different. Yeah, I'm thinking Nepal Village. Her long-range damage is great. And especially with the Lucio, if she can get to the point... If Pharah can get to a choke point before you can, you're pretty much doomed. Unless you have a D.Va and a shield, like a good shielder, Pharah's going to output a lot of damage onto a choke point. Other than that, I think Pharah's just... She's not a bad hero. People try to put damage on her, but if you don't have a Widow, hit scan still has a lot of fall-off damage when someone's flying in the air. She's not a bad pick. That's all there is to it.
Comparing across different maps, and for the Dallas Fuel side, they seem comfortable heading into this.
It's also nice when you have Winston D.Va and they jump on people, and you can get the long range damage from Pharah. That's a bit more consistent than Junkrat's long range damage. So Pharah can help people on the other side of the battlefield. So now we have Numbani. Dallas is attacking. This is actually, I like their first point attack. It was really cool. But Seoul did a very good response, and I think it was good on both teams. So, they speed boost low. And now it looks like they were going to dive, but you saw that pullback right there by D.Va. This is a really good sign of control. Here's the D.Va right here. It's the entire right of the screen. And then she just runs back. So what happened was in basically a split second, they're like, oh shit, it's dive. Seoul goes, no, wait, they're just running through. Don't follow them. And they pull back. And so that's why we have this weird standoff. Right, because if it was dive, what you could do is if everyone dove on them, Seoul could just fall back. And then they could defend from right here while everyone that used movement abilities is stuck up here. But if they did that maneuver against this defense, they would have died. Subtle, but really, really important.
And the first resurrection will be thrown his way by Chips High.
So if Seoul reacted like a normal team would have to dive, I think they would have lost the point instantly.
They have two routes. You see Seoul Dynasty has repositioned on the far side.
Yeah, effect on the flank.
And so now we just kind of have what happens when you're surrounded. They get attacked from multiple directions. Most of the team is on that high ground where Winston just jumped at, except for this Junkrat. Fleta was on the other side alone, and he just gets wrecked by a soldier. So it's a good move. Especially that first part. The fact that in a split second they realized it was a run by and not a dive, that actually saved them losing the point instantly, instead of, you know, after a minute. But this is just...
Jumped on, and now Taimu pushing forward once again on the Soldier 76, making as much space for this payload as he can.
So,
They've built up a lot of momentum here already.
Dallas is overly aggressive here, and they lose 2 people. And this actually has a higher impact than you would think. So at that point, when they're down 2 people...
Chips right there, actually. So
the time
once they lost 2 people, usually you could defend at this point, but instead they have to defend back here. And this is a big difference. Essentially, they lose their space. They lost all the space they could have created, and now they're more or less getting spawn camped, and they're taking damage as they go out of the choke point. And the other part of this, which we'll see more on Dallas's defense. Notice how Seoul has pressure, or at least has presence, on all sides. And there's someone hiding right there. So, picks happen. They get more picks. But more or less... they take a lot of damage. I think... Yeah, Dallas gets it here. So, they do recover from there. They use a lot of ults to push out. They make it very costly. And by defending so far forward, they allow themselves another chance at defense. If you defend basically where everyone else defends in that second corner, if you lose there, you usually lose the point. But they defend so far forward, they get an extra defense off. Not only that, but because it's a payload type map, someone has to stay on the payload. Meaning, this Tracer is truly all alone, and even if she runs to here or further, she's still alone because there's so many people. Like the cart is so far back. The team is very, very fractured. So there's the cart. It's finally getting around. And that was actually a good sleep. They show that later. Good sleep by Jae-Hong again. So, with that pick, they get a couple more picks. Everyone commits suicide. Yeah. So it's a good pick, and with Mercy dead in that pick, it's tough. Tracer is so deep that no one can really defend the Mercy that's getting jumped by dive. But again, it's because they defended so far forward that the team was so far fractured on that attack. And now they're doing it again. They're just forcing them to come out of a choke point and making them deal with all that shit. Now, we have to look at the mini camera. And you can see this, XQC just gets slept and then killed. But we see them, they're really pressuring. They actually, right there was a Dragon Blade. Harry Hook ults right now. But they're taking the fight really, really far forward. And sometimes this happens where they just win the fight outright, and there's a lot of, they essentially created a lot of space.
He's getting dunked on by these skill shots.
I'm not saying we're rage quit material right there, but it's
So that's what they essentially what happened there is they got pressured from the choke point.
trying to get back to the safety of his team and the unfortunate target of a sleep dart.
Now, they didn't have enough time to push up, because remember, no space is good space. And I would say Seoul here... I would say this is an overcommitment on that side. They get a couple picks and damage, but the rest of the team just suffers from it. The split seemed to favor Dallas a lot more with the Soldier ult.
The launch straight into a wall. Zunba wants to delay this for a little bit. He's going to use the self-destruct.
Well, Seoul Dynasty has bought themselves so much time already on this map, and Point C's a tough one to take on Nimbani. When you make them take this long to
But since they lose one flank, essentially the numbers come together and they lose the other flank.
Strong case for them. Jaehong will switch over to the Zenyatta now.
True enough.
I see him trying to take some long-range shots as both players poking at each other.
And now we're going to see this. This is a very big... whenever a team is stuck in this tunnel, basically from here to, you know, the other end of it, we're going to see a lot of attacks happen. And I think it's just a good strategy. You'll see it, probably most teams do it. Diva Bomb in this tunnel, and what happens? Waiting on the other side as they all retreated the Diva Bomb. They kind of got Tracer and Winston just waiting for him. So it's a really good pincer attack. It leaves them no place to retreat from, right? Like, if they run forward, they're going to get killed, so they have to retreat back. And there's no good place to retreat back. Since it's a tunnel, it's just very telegraphed.
Taimu was trying to run from the self-destruct, and he just got hit by a pulse bomb sandwiched with explosives.
Between a bomb and a smaller bomb.
So again, they're pushing up to the spawn. No space is good space.
Does get hit with that bomb. This time it's the pulse bomb that actually gets the finisher, but good coordination there from Seoul.
And once they start getting these kills, this is just like free ult percentage. This is so good.
Jaehong just free firing with that Zenyatta from the high ground.
Cart is at least moving right now. Actually, it's been effect on the backside that's been keeping it rolling and preventing it from losing ground.
It's also good to note that because the reason they can actually defend this far forward is because they're running dive. If things go bad, they just all retreat. They all have movement abilities to get the hell out.
That's a big problem. Needs that health back. He gets it. They can't lose him here. Ooh, that's close.
I say that as the Diva dives way back there.
Oh man, a staggered kill in effect would have been really annoying for Dallas to have to deal with.
But see, they can just retreat back to here, and they're pretty much in good shape.
Big fireworks here as both teams at 5 ultimates. A lot is going to depend on this next engagement.
So we see it happen again. As they push through the tunnel, they get jumped on. Right, Winston's on the back lines immediately. Zen has the ult. Whenever you're going through that tunnel, you're very, very vulnerable. Now, we can see a couple things fighting in the background, and the big difference between this push and the last push is that the back lines managed to survive by themselves, while the front lines managed to survive. Front lines take some damage, but we'll see a Soldier ult in the back start cleaning shit up. Yeah. Here comes the Soldier ult. It was just good play. Good ults on all sides. Again, the backline surviving by themselves really, really important.
And now the Dragon Blade comes out. There goes XQC, and the vulnerable backline does need to be concerned. Well, they're already dead.
But
gonna be the last one to fall here.
The support ults on Soul's part, I think, were a bit better. And also holding on to this Dragon Blade the entire time really, really helped. After all the support ults came out, they got a bunch of picks and they could do whatever they wanted.
10 ults used in that engagement, but Dallas Fuel not able to push up this payload any further.
50 seconds left.
So this is an important part, and it's hard to see, and we see Winston drop with like no health. And what happens is before all this happens, we see Dallas actually, instead of just putting all the pressure down center, they're now attacking center and above. And it's actually this pressure from above that really helped them. So we can see XQC's health in the corner. Or, sorry. We can see Miro's health up here. Miro starts taking a lot of damage.
any further.
And D.Va is already used some defensive matrix to help herself, but now she has to save the Winston.
50 seconds left.
Alright, now both tanks kind of used all of their abilities. They're running on E.
Who's going back in? He got healed. There's that primal rage.
Winston does rage, but
Somehow taken out.
there's still all of their abilities are used up. The D.Va's going to get demeched right there. And essentially that push up top weakened them to such a degree that it allowed the main to get through. And this is why I think you need to put pressure on from multiple sides. It just creates opening. If someone's up here, you apply pressure, get some damage done, and they have to retreat. If no one's up there, then you just simply attack them from two different sides at once.
Threatening.
Yeah, it's still going. 30 seconds remaining, and they might have gotten some purchase. Taimu just standing on top of the car, trying to.
So here they are.
Yeah,
They're just hoping to stall it. They had nothing.
Oh, there it is. And Harry came up with a big kill early on in that. He's got the Transcendence now, and with that pulse bomb, maybe effect can deny the respawns. They can pop
And no.
That would be huge. Jaehyung in the back lines. Whoa, where do you get
This,
there? He's got the trans.
first of all, Jaehyung, this guy is so fucking funny.
And with that pulse bomb, maybe effect can deny.
So if no one saw that, that was a flanking Zenyatta.
Out of the back, that would
Now, as normal, the supports in the long-range classes back up to here. But, for some reason, there's a Zenyatta. And since Zen can charge his attacks, he's probably going to try to get one volley off here and then come up to you and shoot you again.
be huge. Jaehyung in the back lines. Whoa.
The nice part is he had his ult, so he's like, alright, if something happens, I'm just going to ult and get to my team very quick.
Where do you get back there? He's got the trans. It's his
But he does get the Mercy. That should be noted. The flanking did work.
ultimate Monte Cristo. He killed Chips though. The flanking Zenyatta doing work for Seoul, but they need
But this distance is really, really tough. Yeah.
Taimu gets the kill, but it doesn't stop Dallas.
So they kind of just get off the point.
Chips though. The flanking Zenyatta doing work.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say about that. The Genji's applying pressure, and he actually kills Soldier as he should. And you do need to keep pressure back here. You can't let these people have free reign. I can't tell what's going on here. Maybe a boop happened.
To stop it right here, right now.
I'm not sure what went wrong,
But it doesn't stop Dallas
but
from completing, or does it?
Soul got off the cart.
Close one.
Yeah, he has no idea. He thought he lost.
No.
that was incredibly close at the end.
I can't believe they snuck it in there.
I wish I could have seen what happened. But yeah, for some reason they got off the cart.
It's coming from the Seoul Dynasty side, right? If we're going to see the Torbjorn, it's going to be on the Seoul side.
Anyone know how many Overwatch games I'm planning on doing? I'll probably take a vote in Discord, and if there's a good game, we'll probably go over it slightly. Right now, I'm glossing over some of the not interesting parts, and I'm talking about the more interesting parts more often. If that's what people seem to like, then we can start shortening up these reviews, and I can start doing them quicker. Because I can just watch the game and be like, oh, that was interesting, I'll make note of it. Go from there.
Mercy, though,
Unfortunately, they don't have a good composition to use the Torbjorn with both the Soldier and the Pharah there.
After I saw this attack, they did this twice in a row, and I'm starting to think about why they're doing this.
Ability to
So yeah, Dallas is running the Torb, and a long-range Pharaoh is going to beat a Torb. That's just what happened. So they're kind of down a bit just from comp.
all 6 members coming
But I was thinking about it, and we can look at it from the other way. Well, we can look at it from here. With the Pharah Mercy up here, and everyone just running through, it gives them a very low surface area to attack them on. Right?
that'll do it. Yep.
Like, the boops happen, that's great. But if we look from the other way, if I could see Dallas's point of view, like, you got this to shoot him from. And it's pretty long range. I believe actually at this range, Soldier is suffering fall-off damage. And it's interesting, because the Pharah Mercy, like, you're not going to get booped off. The Winston can get over there. The D.Va can get over there. The Soldier can run. I mean, the slowest guy is Zenyatta, so if he can get there, then everyone can get there. It seems a lot safer. It leaves a lot surface area to attack. I'm actually liking the strategy more and more as I see them do it.
This is one of those going well. Yeah, this is one of those times, Noah,
Once they got the picks, it was kind of a tough day for them. But I do like... Yeah, I do like that attack just because of the low surface area, and then it gives you access to the high ground. It's interesting to think about that.
I don't know if he's going to come at you with the Tracer. You do see the Soldier a lot on Nimbani these days, so yeah.
And the upside is, if that is going to work, what happens is, okay, all of a sudden you win that first fight, everybody has armor packs on the defense, you've got the Molten Core, it becomes incredibly difficult to crack the point.
Okay, and now this is really interesting because remember on Dallas' defense, they got 2 picks, or they got picked by 2 people. So they lost this corner. They had to defend from here and in their spawn, but Seoul does not. And not only that, but where this is a bit on Dallas' part, but look how Dallas attacks them at this point. I'm trying to get a good point of view. So look how much cover there is. Remember when I said Seoul was attacking from multiple areas and it could hit them? I was like, yeah, that's why there's a bunch of picks and they have them back and forth. I think if a team was defending like this, Seoul, like if Seoul was only defending from one direction, they wouldn't have gotten many picks, if any at all. But look how Seoul's defending. You got cover. You have cover. You kind of get 2 sight lines here, and then you have 1 sight line on the left side of the card. This is really, really good for D.Va. Right? You can only shoot me in one place, I'm going to absorb all the damage. So there's this cover coming into play. Again, there's so much cover that a lot of these backliners can't get hit. The map is really, really working hard for Seoul right now. I mean, look, yeah, no one can hit these guys. You got 2 very small sight lines to hit these people. Good D.Va bomb. I mean, Seoul's just working around the map hard on this one.
And that payload starting to get pushed forward now by Seoul Dynasty.
Unfortunately for Dallas.
Yeah, I really like this attack by Seoul. I don't know, like, it's not up to them when Dallas decides to defend, but the fact that they got the cart around the corner and they can use the cart and the car that's right next to it as cover. Seoul took so little damage from that. It was actually incredibly difficult for Dallas to get some shots on there.
See if he can pop out around a corner and one-shot somebody.
That's the plan. Here we go. Goes in. A lot of damage on XQC there.
This attack is really cool. So they try to push out top. And what do? They throw a Doomfist in there. But as Doomfist backs up, D.Va covers this door, Winston covers this door. Right now, no one wants to get in. There's a Tracer. Just a random blink that just was really bad. But because they covered both doors so well, it slowed their attack from the top down, and that's what made the Tracer vulnerable down there, kind of. And that's what left the Zen being very vulnerable down there. Essentially, the whole top push, where a majority of the team was, got stalled. Which allowed them to win the bottom.
Going a bit wild on that D.Va towards the end of the fight too.
Look how Seoul made Doomfist work? Kind of. That blink by Tracer is... I don't want to call it... Like, she blinked right into it. So again, as we've noted, as someone enters the tunnel, that's when the defense will attack, and that's exactly what happened.
2 picks can't actually get the resurrection. They're going to have to wait now for this D.Va to... Well, Timu's gonna finish it off.
So good stall, and as always, we start seeing this attack. I think every team's gonna every good team's gonna attack when you go into tunnel.
They know that a lot of this damage is gonna be coming straight from the front. Mickey will be playing the Zarya now, wanting to go for.
Yeah, actually, they don't make Doomfist work if I remember correctly.
Taking the high ground here, chasing effect away for the moment. Oh, we knew who that recall was gonna be. That was a close one.
So this is super greedy. I don't know if anyone knows about hitboxes, but if they can see the top of your head quite easily from the low ground, it's harder to see them than it is for you to see them. So they're gonna like High Noon's gonna hit before you can do anything.
You don't do that. Yeah, it's a bit dangerous. He did misjudge the Deadeye. I think he thought.
So this was a cool maneuver. Yeah, Soldier did die, but Winston died over here, and we're going to see Mercy dive across and Zen follow her to get the resurrection off. Problem is, well, Tracer gets the back line. The Shiz died to a monkey. Doomfist ults in. I'm not sure what he did. I don't know if he did that to survive, but yeah. They just kind of overcommit. It was a good try. They couldn't ult their way out of it, though. Also, once all the ults are used, we're going to see... There we go. We see changes. And now this is the problem that we're going to see when you change heroes. They just lose. There's not much to say about this tactically, except that they just got wrecked by a couple ults. Even with res, it's going to be tough. And this Tracer, this was looking close. But then Tracer, almost Tracer. Tracer almost pulled that shit off. But the ults come in, or they came in before. They got enough, because Dallas pressed too far forward. Could take a couple deaths, and that's leading to why this is rough right here. And now we're actually going to see mirror comps, or is this the point? Oh, we're going to see it in a bit. So this whole thing started by this Deadeye. So it looks like Dallas is on the back foot. High Noon catches Tracer, and as they try to back out, Dallas gets pressured. We're going to see Tracer come up from the side, and she'll start applying pressure from the side. So they keep on trying to jump slower and slower back. The sides kind of get pressed in, and this kind of causes the whole entire thing to die. But yeah, that shows you what one pick will do for you.
Saving both support ultimates crucially. They've given themselves a chance. All right, Flood is back on the Junkrat. If you remember back...
Odd choice. The defensive Tracer, I would say, was working quite well. But with so much little time, effect goes to Widow. And this is one of those things I'd probably like to ask him, like, what was the thought of him going to Widow? And I guarantee it was like, oh, well, we just needed one pick to win the fight. And we wanted to do that with Widow. So we see Zarya ult. Zen recovers from it. It gets followed by another Zarya ult, where Zen covers for it. Reinhardt gets enough charge to get an ultimate. He does get one pick, but dies in the process. So we're more or less pretty even Steven here. The res in the back... The res in the back scared the hell out of that McCree because he just got hammered. And now we're seeing the Junkrat just applying good damage over the top. Tire, meh. Now, this Zen is doing great work in the back here. And while we see Junkrat people are going to be like, oh, that takes a lot of skill. It's not just Junkrat. Each of these guys are getting hit once by McCree, and then Junkrat's following up with the damage while they're discorded. And that's why these 200 hit point targets are falling so hard, so fast. And now comes a very interesting decision. And I can't see, so this is somewhat assuming, but I'm going by shot lines. We see Widow over here, and McCree is over here as well. While the 2 supports, there's 1, 2, and the 2 tanks are over here. So the idea is, basically the entire team is putting pressure this way to keep the cart there, and they're using this low sight line to keep the supports safe. While the DPSs are a little bit more at risk, the Widow's a little bit farther back, and the McCree's a little bit farther back, so, you know, the Junkrat can't just jump on them. So we see all this vying for position, there's a lot of fighting going on here, and then they just kind of capture the point. So it's very hard to see. But right here, perfect. This right here is a McCree shot. From what I can tell, since McCree was doing nothing here, he shoots, we see everyone look that way, and then nothing happens. We don't see anyone doing anything, no one's looking. I'm assuming either he tried to flank or he was hiding behind the corner too much. But once the Widow gets popped and she dies, essentially the McCree's doing nothing over here. Once D.Va's demech, this entire thing's just kind of like, do the supports run at a Reinhardt that's swinging a hammer? Right? Does the Winston run at that? And that's kind of what body blocks body blocks everyone to get the point. That was a little bit of a misstep by Dallas. I would have liked to see what the McCree was doing. He gets a little bit of an ult percentage at the end, so I don't want to say he was flanking all the way around, but he was doing something. It's tough to see, though. I really wish I could see the actual game. So, Seoul on defense. They're running a Pharah. And now they kind of do the same thing, where they kind of speed boost on point, but they dive, and there's just nothing to dive on. They're running Pharah Mercy, so 2 of the targets are in the air. Like, you could dive on the Ana, the soldier's just going to be sprinting away, but they dive on the wrong spot. They took a guess and they were wrong. As that happens, essentially Seoul saw that their dive was completely messed up, and with that they're just like, hey guys, dive their back lines, because their dive comp just used their abilities and they can't do anything right now. And that's how the 2 supports got picked. Remember when we talked a long time ago about like the 4 or 5 ways to defend with dive? One of the defenses is, you know, dive on the dive, or dive on the supports, essentially. Yeah. And there's some other ones, rotating all 6, things like that. But if they miss their dive and your supports are fine, then just dive their back lines and you're good. So, low on time, Dallas is forced on point, and I don't really consider these like very good tactically sound stuff unless something amazing happens. It's just that Dallas is forced on point. They have to do something, which is just really bad tactically. Like, you're stuck there. You're stuck on the point with, you know, nothing. Whenever you're rushed into a point, you're going to get shot and probably killed. So, yep, we see the same exact attack. But now, this time, notice the big difference between the last attack and this attack. They didn't let them get through here. In fact, Dallas was diving on them here, and then essentially they were putting up such a strong defense right here. They were forced to dive on that defense. And just having more players on this high end is just limiting the options of Seoul.
across. Wow, we lost a lot of health. They really need. Yeah, okay. There's the healing now in Mickey. That was a close call.
It's all right. Just go ahead. Give chips that.
And now this is the weird call. So the dive is called, but the first one to the dive is Zen. He gets killed, and then it's just Winston. He dies. It was a very weird dive call. I'm not sure what Jaehyung was doing up there, but he was just having fun. I know essentially at this point they're tied, so that Seoul wins. But yeah, get this out of here. What the fuck was? I mean, I guess he was trying to get a pick or something, but man, him and the flanking Zen. I mean, Zen is silent, so outside of charging his attack, he's completely silent. So you can get some damage off, which would have been hilarious. He took a risk. Yeah, he was just fucking around, I think. I think they knew they won this, and they're good with the tie. It was interesting. I think Dallas definitely learned from the mistakes on their first defense. They didn't defend so far back, giving them that corner. They put pressure on that corner, and essentially that's what bought them the second draw. But overall, like, no, I think they were pretty good games. That's it. That's where Seoul wins. Oh, looking at my pepper pants still. Yeah, so Seoul wins that one. Technically 2-1, but it was like 2-1-1, whatever you want to call it. Seoul, strong team. They're individually extremely skilled, and together they're extremely skilled as well. I think they're probably my favorite to win it all. That and they learn quick. Dallas learned quick as well. They just kind of got their ass kicked every now and then. Seoul, what they need to work on is chasing that last kill, because that's what actually made them lose Junkertown. And I think because they're so skilled individually, that's actually what makes Hog a little bit better against them. It's kind of like why Hog is good against me, is that I want that one-on-one fight, and usually individual skilled players want that one-on-one fight. So what a Hog does is, hey, if you want that one-on-one fight, well, I'm going to hook you and I'm going to kill you. And so that's what we saw in Junkertown a lot, was one DPS trying to hold a flank or doing something by themselves, and Hog just comes up and hooks him and kills him. So, yeah. That's what I have to say Seoul has to work on. But overall, they're fucking great. Seoul not someone's favorite to win? I'm not sure, but everyone was asking me who I think was going to win or who I support. I would say Seoul. What about Nixel or Spitfire? I would have to actually look at their games in depth and go from there. But I've seen just a lot of good play from Seoul. Do you think Dallas got their stuff together? Would it be as good as Seoul Dynasty? Or is there still a difference between them? From this video, it feels like Dallas does a lot of brute force stuff. That Stage 2 Nambani the Streets phase, one, they lost a couple people beforehand. And because of that, they kind of got stuck in spawn. But you saw Seoul, when they were attacking the corner, like if this was the corner, they were wrapped around it. They were applying pressure from multiple points. While when when Dallas was defending, they were just trying to put pressure one way, and Seoul was using the cart to block it and the car next to it to block it. The map favored them completely. Like, either Dallas needed to attack before that point or allow it for them to come back out. And essentially, as the cart moves forward, it opens up a couple of flanks. So maybe they could attack from that one. But they were attacking head-on, and it was just... It's very difficult to win against a better team when you're trying to shoot through a cart in a car. And they have a Widow, so guess what? You can shoot Widow for half a second. You may get a headshot. Good job. You'll do like 140 damage if you recruit. In that same half second, Widow's going to do 300 damage and kill one of your supports. Or one of your DPSers. So it's a dangerous peak game to play against her. That was worrying about for me on Dallas. The Junkertown game, I want to say, like, Dallas did well, but Seoul chasing those kills, man. that fucked them. That's why Seoul, I think, lost that game. That, and they try to challenge the Hog too much, one-on-one, with the DPS against the Hog. Hog's going to win. If he lands his hook, which, at this skill level, assume they're going to land the hook. Ilios was the one where Dallas really, kind of got beat on. I think they didn't change up their strategy quick enough. It's really difficult because they didn't have... Did they have a hit scan? It was that Pharah applying damage over the top on the flanks against an Orisa-based composition. Orisa-based composition means you just want to sit behind the Orisa shield and do damage. But on a King of the Hill, especially on Ilios like that, you're stuck in a small choke point, and your flanks are open. Especially to a Pharah. The sky's the limit, literally. The sky was the limit. She kept on just applying damage over the top and from the sides. You can't survive against that. Not with an Orisa-based comp. Reinhardt, hey, maybe you can turn and defend rockets every now and then, but with an Orisa, once the shield's down, that's it. Yeah, they ran Orisa Hog. So I think they should have changed from that. That was on Well. The other map, it wasn't Ruins. It was Lighthouse. They didn't play that one too poorly. They had some things they did right. What Seoul actually got the win on was the fact that they were putting pressure. Again, they weren't putting pressure through one way. They crossed mid, and they put pressure from 3 different paths to mid. And then they not only did they apply pressure this way, but they focused their pressure on the supports. So they had to go from Dallas had to go from their side, dive all the way over here to defend that. And when Dallas did that, Seoul just rotated onto the point and took the point from them, right under their noses. There was essentially once the Mercy reses Pharah and the other Mercy resed Widow, it was essentially a 6v6. And it looked like Dallas was defending. They had the point. It looked like Dallas, for some reason, was defending back, right before the point. So Seoul just took the point. They just completely got outmaneuvered. I would say Dallas is depending... I would say most American teams are depending too much on skill and not enough on strategy. Anubis was it was fucking Anubis. It was 2 CP. That was Seoul's to lose because they defended point 1 too much and they never got set up on point 2. And that's why 2 of their defenses was absolute garbage. As soon as they got their defense right on the first point, they defended it for 3 minutes. It was really good defense. As soon as they could get set up on the second point, they were going to do a good defense. But Dallas did well on that. The Soul Shuffle is so good. That is probably their number one skill that I don't think any other team has and is completely just underrated or bypassed. No one gets that. The fact that they're on the point constantly with one person while the others, they do this rotation schedule where one person gets on the point and then the guys that are getting off the point are getting healed, and then this guy will get off the point to get a health pack or to get healed, and another person will rotate on the point, and they keep on doing it, and it's like clockwork. It's just... I don't even think they're speaking. They just know what to do with it. And that's how they stall those points for so long. It's really, really nice. The Nambani. I just got done talking about it. Both teams kind of let them cap at the end, so that was interesting on both sides. Seoul's point 2 defense was better than Dallas's. And that was because they pushed up. Maybe it's just a little bit of sloppy play out of Dallas. They're losing a lot of picks, or they're getting picked a lot. It's hard to say. I think it's a conspiracy that they gave Seoul the best team, the best skins. Well, questionable. Yeah, it's interesting. I want to see Seoul get their ass beat one of these times, and then we can learn a lot more. But if we look at Dallas, I would have to review Dallas's second match they played. I know they lost, right? Did they lose? I think they lost. Ilios at map 2. If Dallas went to a different choke like inside of the health pack, they have a chance to win with their comp. Yeah, I think they would have. I think if they threw Hog on the other flank, instead of putting everyone on one flank and just getting murdered by the Pharah, they could have at least had a better chance. Yeah. It was getting through that choke that was the biggest issue for them. And you actually see the last point where they make it the farthest on the point is when they do press from different flanks, but the problem was the one flank was too weakly defended. It was just their supports, and the dive comp was, because that's the last time they switched to Winston. He was too far away, he tried to dive, and he got in front of the supports, but the Pharah and Mercy were already on top of him, and it was a little bit too late on that. Yeah, I need to see that next Dallas game to actually see how they're doing. I think they're a good team. They played sloppy a little bit. They got picked a couple times, and that was, man, high level Overwatch guys. If it's a 5v6, you lose. That's it. You get a good pick, a clean pick that they can't resurrect, and with the Mercy changes, that's the big thing. Is picks will be a lot more important. So we'll see more Widow, we'll see more Hanzo, maybe. And because Widow's so terrifyingly good right now, and they're not going to nerf Widow. Widow's good. She's always going to be good. And if you take the one shot away from her, she's pointless. So she'll always be a threat. Maybe we'll see more Reinhardt, more shields, just to protect him. Because once the Mercy nerf happens, you get one res, you get one pick. People are saying XQC tilted. I don't think so. The problem is that people don't understand that sometimes it's not ladder. It's not like, oh, I should do X, I should do Y. It's that guy's telling me to jump in. I have to jump in. Doesn't matter what I think. I have to do what the guy is asking. I have to do the best I can with what the guy wants. So you don't know if sometimes the guy was like, hey, XQC, you gotta create space, Maybe XQC died, he jumped in, died, and, the other parts on his teammates, lived because of that. So, it's, that's how professional scenes work. It's not every person's playing for themselves. It's playing as one unit, and sometimes as, a general or a leader, you have to send some units to die so others live. That's the reality of it. I think a lot of people don't understand that. But yeah. I think Seoul's just a goddamn good team. That's all there is. Kind of like the military. Yeah, it is kind of like the military. I mean, you have to have structure in a professional team. If whoever's calling the shots, like if you have a shot caller and the shot caller says, Tracer Genji, dive that. Winston Diva, you dive that. You fucking do it. You're a professional, and that's what you're meant to do. You have to. It's not about you, it's about the team. So,